Now we are starting our proceedings. Over to Ms. Subhashri.
Welcome to the National Webinar on Recent Techniques on Crystal Growth and its Characterization. Hello everyone, a very good morning to one and all present here. We will take this immense pleasure to welcome all with this beautiful morning with the new challenges and new opportunities on behalf of the Madura College. I am highly privileged to welcome Sri S.Natanagopal Sir, Secretary the Madura College Board, Dr.J.Suresh Sir, Principal of Madura College, Dr.R.Saravanan Sir, Head of the Physics Department, faculties of the Physics Department, esteemed resource persons, participants, and my dear friends, welcome you all. Coming together is beginning. Keeping together is progress. But working together is success. Now we start proceedings with prayer. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Punje Kulamum Purvane Devanum Nanje Nimaimin நமனில்லை நானாமே சென்றே புகுங்கதியில்லை முன் சித்தத்து நின்றே நிலை பெற நீர் நிறைந்துயிமினே ஓம் சாந்தி சாந்தி சாந்தி. Thank you all. Now I request Professor Mr. S.Sivaramakrishnan Sir, convener of this webinar, to deliver welcome speech.
A happy good morning to everyone attending this national level webinar on recent techniques on single crystal growth and its characterization. First of all, I would like to welcome Sri S.Natanagopal, Secretary of the Madura College Board. He has always been a pillar of strength and support for new initiatives in the college. I welcome Sri N. Anand Srinivasan, Treasurer, Madura College Board. He is known for his active involvement in all aspects of development in the college. I am glad to welcome Dr.J.Suresh, Principal. I thank him for his able guidance and support for the conduct of this webinar. I am happy to welcome Dr.R.Saravanan, Head, Department of Physics, a researcher of eminence whose wholehearted support and guidance enabled us to organize this grand event. I welcome all the colleagues of the Department of Physics of the Madura College. I welcome all faculty friends and students who are watching this event live. I welcome all participants. We are happy with the overwhelming response to the webinar with over 1,300 registrations from all over India. I am happy to welcome the student volunteers for organizing this event in a wonderful manner. I welcome Dr.R.Vishnu Priya, convener of this event. She is instrumental in organizing this event in such a grand manner and for conceiving the event brick by brick. Last but not the least, I welcome the chief guests for today's webinar, Dr. Muthu Sindil Pandian, Research Scientist, Photovoltaic Devices Laboratory, SSN Research Center, SSN College of Engineering, Chennai, Dr. S. Israel, Associate Professor of Physics, the American College, Madurai, and Dr. R. Ranjit Kumar, Assistant Professor of Organic Chemistry, School of Chemistry, Madurai Kamaraj University. The resource persons for the day are eminent people known to the research fraternity for their devotion to academics and research. I deem it a privilege to welcome one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Sri S.Natanagopal Sir, Secretary of the Madura College Board, to inaugurate the proceedings.
A very good morning to all of you. I deem it a great privilege to be part of this event, the seminar by the Department of Physics, Madura College, Madurai. This department has been very traditional and one of the reputed departments of our college. And I used to look up with interest for the activities of this great institution. I was just going through the topic of deliberation that is to take place today. And I have certain ideas about physics which I thought I would share with you. It is the study of matter, energy, and interactions, and it has a lot of significance for the humankind. The support of physics in education and research in multidisciplinary fields like chemistry, biotechnology, medicine, etc., is immeasurable. There are 10 points on which physics is very critical for our sustenance. Number one is physics is an exciting intellectual adventure that inspires the mind to expand the frontiers of knowledge. And it generates fundamental knowledge on energy, technology, and advancements and drives the economic engines of the nation. Physics contributes immensely to the technological infrastructure development of any nation and also for scientific expansion and discoveries. It is an important element in the education of chemistry, computer science, etc., and extends his understanding in other disciplines such as earth sciences, agriculture, biotechnology, environmental sciences, and so on. It improves the quality of life by providing basic understanding of new instrumentations and techniques used for research and for magnetic resonance imaging, etc. For all these reasons, physics is essential for the survival of the humankind. Building and maintaining strong physics curriculum in universities and colleges is very paramount, and Madura College is a pioneer in that. It has produced a lot of excellent scientists from the institution, and even our principal is from the Department of Physics right now. A lot of grants and scholarships are being given for physics research by the university and various other bodies, and every institution strives to get the assistance to improve upon their research. And going to today's topic, crystal growth is a useful subject for studying the metals and alloys. That's what I understand, especially the mechanical properties and technological devices which are used in gas turbine blades, etc. These crystal airfalls have longer thermal and fatigue life. It means less material and less weight, and have a higher melting point and melting temperature. So this is used in turbines and in aerospace, etc., where the heat generation is much higher. The criticality of the weight and the mass can be controlled with this technology. I am really happy that eminent scientists have been roped in to delve on this subject. While understanding a subject, it becomes very difficult to understand unless it is explained properly by experts. I would like to quote from the Subhashitani, Sastreshu Durgraho Abhi Artho Swarate Kavishuktishu Drishyam Karagatam Ratnam Dharunam Pani Murdani. What I have said now may be Greek and Latin, though it is Sanskrit to most of us. To tell you in English, even the subject matter which is difficult to learn from our own ancient scriptures or various other sastras or even science or basic science is very difficult to understand straight away. But it can be compared to a gem once it is with the head of the snake, it is very terrifying. But if it is in the form of a gem in one's own hand, it is enjoyable. The speakers today are like the people who are going to get us the gems from the snake so that participants can understand what it is, how it works, and the benefit of their knowledge and wisdom will be carried forward. With this, I wish the seminar all success and wish that so much the delegates participating today carry home pleasant memories and also extremely good knowledge on the subject chosen for today's deliberation. I wish the seminar all success and thank you for the opportunity given to inaugurate this seminar. Thanks, sir. Thanks you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your motivating talk. I deem it a privilege To read out the valedictory message sent out by Sri N. Anand Srinivasan, Treasurer of the Madura College Board. Good morning. Glad to receive an invitation on the national level webinar to be held today. I feel elated on seeing the overwhelming response from more than 1,000 participants. My sincere wishes to the principal, head of the Department of Physics, and the faculty members for hosting this event. Thanks to the three eminent scholars for their lectures, and interaction will be much more useful for the participants. Special word of appreciation to the conveners for being instrumental in the successful conduct of this webinar. I wish the Department of Physics to scale new heights in inculcating academic activities through digital media also. Thank you. So we are thankful to the motivational message from Sri N. Anand Srinivasan, Treasurer of the Madura College Board. Over to Subhashri.
Thank you, sir. Now we call upon Dr.J.Suresh, sir, Principal of Madura College, to offer his felicitations.
Respected Secretary, Treasurer of the Madura College Board, President and Directors of Madura College Board, my dear speakers, Dr. Senthil Pandian, Dr. Israel, Dr. Anjit Kumar, dear colleagues, Prof.S.Sivaramakrishnan and Dr. Vishnu Priya, participating friends from different institutions, a warm good morning to one and all. As the principal of the college, hosting the event, it is my pleasant privilege to speak a few words of felicitation at the inauguration of this webinar. A webinar of this nature allows us to think beyond our routine academic activities and listen to experts in the field of crystal growth and characterization. I strongly believe that participation in such program will expand our minds, gives better exposure to the current research in the specified area, and enables us to push ourselves to new standards of excellence. All this will not be possible without an organizing team, and I congratulate and thank Prof.S.Sivaramakrishnan and Dr.R.Vishnu for their voluntary efforts to make this webinar happen. My thanks are due to all the three speakers for having accepted our invitation. I once again wish all participants an enjoyable day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Professor Dr. R. Vishnupriya ma'am, convener of this webinar, to introduce the resource person of the first technical session.
Good morning, everyone. Before I take the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, I welcome all the participants for this national webinar. I am here to introduce the man of contribution to the improvement of the quality of life in the developing world of single crystals. His article profiles a number of people who are making a difference in the various parts of the country, and you can find him at the top of the list. Known for his positive and motivational attitude towards various issues, his dynamic range of acquaintances, and a sense of adventure that knows few bounds. I would like to introduce Dr. Muthu Sendil Pandian, Research Scientist, Photovoltaic Devices, Laboratory, SSN Research Center, SSN Institution, Chennai. The awe-inspiring thing about this astonishing man is the 22 projects that he received from various standing agencies like BRNS, SERC, DST, UGC DAE, Recycle 3, Canada, and SSNI. He has also he has also received 24 awards, which claims his credibility. He has published 88 international journals with his citations for the journals publications as 1172, and his H index stands with 18 and his item index with 32. Two scholars have completed their PhD degree under his guidance, five scholars are currently working under him, and one doctoral student is currently working as an SSN postdoctoral fellow. Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. Here I just quote two of his such research achievements and leave the session to him. The first one is he has grown the world's longest organic nonlinear optical benzophene single crystal, which ranges by 1350 millimeters long by unidirectional solution growth method for simple harmonic generation application. And the second such achievement is one of his papers has been appeared in the most cited article list as per the publisher's notification based on Scopus in IACJ newsletter. Now, I hand over the session to this expert for his 84th presentation for you all to hear from the horse mouth. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Vishnu Priya, for your nice introduction. Good morning, all. First of all, I would like to thank the Secretary, Dr. Natanagopal, and Professor Saravanan, the head of the department, Madura College, and Professor Suresh, the principal, and the conveners of this program, Dr.Sivaramakrishnan and Dr. Vishnu Priya, for giving me this opportunity to share some of my recent research work in unidirectional crystal growth for nonlinear optical practical device application. I must also thank to Dr. Israel from American College. I was done two projects, my third and the fourth semester MSc project in crystal growth under his valuable guidance, and share my PPT. So this is the title of my lecture, Directional Growth of Nonlinear Optical Single Crystals for Second Harmonic Generation Device Application. I myself, Muthu Sendil Pandian, working and closely associated with Professor P. Ramasamy sir in Center for Crystal Growth Research Institution, Chennai. So growth of high quality, large size, defect-free, and unidirectional single crystals are still very challenging task for crystal growers for solution growth method. So high quality single crystals is of great importance when it's come to the device making. In this presentation, I am going to present you a method which gives you the crystals of very high quality. It is a solution growth method. Crystals can be grown by solution, melt, and vapor technique, in which solution and melt techniques are most commonly used. In the present lecture, I have selected three different solution growth methods, namely slow evaporation solution growth technique and unidirectional SR method, the Sanganaya Ramasamy method. And to improve the quality further, to improve the crystalline perfection further, we have modified the SR method, and it is also called as a RSR method, which means the rotational Sanganaya Ramasamy method. So this is the outline of my lecture, importance of various nonlinear optical and ferroelectric single crystals, and growth of several nonlinear optical and ferroelectric single crystals by normal, ordinary slow evaporation solution growth technique in a beaker and petri dish, and what are the disadvantages in the conventional method grown crystals. We will see that, and growth of the same nonlinear optical and ferroelectric single crystals by this unidirectional Sanganaya Ramasamy method. What are the advantages of this SR method grown crystals compared to the normal slow evaporation solution grown crystals? And then several characterizations have been carried out between the slow evaporation solution grown crystals and between the SR method grown crystals. The physical properties like mechanical stability, optical quality, electrical properties, optical homogeneity, and several characterizations we have compared with SR method and conventional method. And we have selected one very good nonlinear optical material. It is a 4-interpolar derivative single crystals by this modified SR method. So we will see in my next few slides what about the SR method growth procedure, what are the parameters involved to grow the crystals in SR method. To improve the quality and to improve the physical properties further, we have modified slightly in SR method. We have rotated the glass sample and we have get the very good quality single crystals with the higher physical properties compared to the normal SR method grown crystals. It is called as a rotational SR method, rotational Sangana-Ramasamy method. And then we compare all the characterizations between the SR method and R.S.R. method. And I will show you the slides. And finally, I conclude my presentation. So single crystals forms an indispensable part of rapidly advancing technology. The art of growing this kind of single crystals has turned into science with a variety of wide range of application. And a variety of this kind of single crystals, nonlinear optical and parabolic single crystals. The application is lasers, nonlinear optics, LED, pyroid detectors, and several optical components and so on. So the availability of the single crystals is equal to the ability to raise the country's economy, and the ability to grow the crystals is an essential criteria for the competitiveness of our nations. These are some of the possible single crystal applications, and the quartz crystal is used in your watches, and KTP single crystals in your frequency conversion devices, and laser cutting tools, and the silicon material is used in your solar cell devices and LED, and so on. And these are the possible lithium niobate single crystal application, and PZMPT material is used in a piezoelectric gas laser, optical data storage technology, telecommunication industry, and air treatment through laser. And these are some of the boron family single crystals practical device application. It has been used in a frequency conversion devices, and it also produces in a lasers. These are some of the different crystal growth techniques available, and mostly all the crystal growth people for practical device application, we use resolution and multi-grown crystals. In 1851, hydrothermal method is used for growth of quartz crystals and SiO2 material, and 1902 Verneuil method used to grow the crystals without crucible like ruby and sapphire. And similarly, there are a lot of crystal growth methods available to grow the good quality single crystals for practical device applications. And in the present lecture, I am mainly concentrated only in this conventional flow operation method and this unidirectional Sangana-Ramasamy method. The inventor name is Professor K. Sanganaram from Malapa University, and Professor P. Ramasamy, he was my PhD supervisor from Anna University. What are the properties needed for nonlinear optical single crystals? It should be high NLO coefficient, and for laser application, one must know the laser damage threshold value. So the laser damage threshold of the grown crystal must be very high. Fast optical response time, wide transmitted range in the range of UV, visible, and near IR region, and it should be high thermal and mechanical and chemical stability, ability to process into the crystal, and the device fabrication steps should be very easy. So when we go for practical device application, it is essential. And the nonlinear optical single crystals can be classified as three categories. One is organic single crystals, and then inorganic, and a mixture of organic and inorganic. It is also called as a semi-organic material. The advantages of the organic single crystal is the SKG efficiency, second harmonic generation efficiency of the most of the organic single crystals is very high due to van der Waals force. But the problem in the organic material is we cannot use the very good quality and bulk size single crystals in the organic single crystal. That is one of the big drawbacks in the growth of organic single crystals. And then inorganic single crystals, we can grow very high quality and bulk size and with higher mechanical stability, with higher laser damage threshold. Inorganic materials like KDP is one of the KDP, and ammonium dihydrogen phosphate is one of the inorganic materials. But the problem in this inorganic material is the SKG efficiency, second harmonic generation efficiency of the inorganic material is less compared to the organic materials. So in order to get the advantages of the organic and inorganic materials, now several researchers are working in this semi-organic category. So I will show you in my next few slides. This is some of the conventional slow operation method grown 2A5NP. It is a 2-amino 5-nitrochlorine family crystals for nonlinear optical application. This is supported by Science Engineering Research Body (CRB). So as I told you, we cannot use the crystals as it is for practical device application because of the very small in size. But the SKG efficiency of some of these crystals are very high. It is 450 times greater than that of the standard potassium dihydrogen phosphate single crystals. Some materials are 150 or 500 times greater than that of the standard KDP single crystals. But the problem is a very small size. Also, there are a lot of gross sector boundaries in conventional crystals. So many dislocation and solvent inclusions are appeared in the conventional method grown crystals. So For practical device application, we cannot use the conventional method grown crystal as it is. So in order to avoid this problem, we have developed this SR method, unidirectional Sagana Ramasamy method. So this is the SR method grown 2-amino-phenolphthalein beta-toluene sulfonate single crystals for practical device application. So this is the crystal grown by SR method. This is the cut and polished wafers, and this is the SKG oriented, the same crystals. So what we have done is we have selected one of these crystals and we have mounted at the bottom of the ampoule and we have grown the crystals. These crystals can be grown by this SR method with using this glass ampoule. This is another 2-amino-phenolphthalein derivative single crystals for nonlinear optical applications. So several attempts have been made to grow the crystals by using slow operation method, slow cooling method, and seed rotation technique. Multi growth technique like Bridgman method, Zegaralski, float zone, zone melting, and flux growth method. But all the reported methods are at elevated temperature that leads to thermal induced growth defects and complicated equipment and a difficulty in growing large size single crystals by solution method, and the multi-step process also involved. So these are some of the conventional method grown 4-nitrophenolate derivative single crystals, some of the crystals for practical device application. So this SKG efficiency of all the conventional method grown crystals are very high. Some of the crystals are more than 2-3 times greater than that of the standard potassium dihydrogen phosphate single crystals. So what we have done in the present lecture is we have selected this 2A P4N, 2-amino 4-nitrophenolate single crystals by using conventional method in beaker and petri dish, and by using SR method, Sagana Ramasamy method, using this large size glass sample, and rotational Sagana Ramasamy method. We have modified RSR method. So we have grown the crystal, this one crystal by these three different techniques, and we have characterized all the grown crystals under identical condition. So what about the structural properties? What about the mechanical stability, optical quality? We have compared under identical condition. Under identical condition means under identical thickness and identical purity. Everything is identical, and the crystal growth method is only different. So the drawbacks in conventional slow operation method is due to temperature instability, multinucleations are formed in the growth chamber, and the cracks formation during growth. Almost all the, if you see all the conventional method grown crystals, you can easily see the micro cracks appeared in the grown crystals due to the temperature instability of the growth chamber. And the milky opaques are also formed in the conventional method grown crystals. So we cannot grow the single and bulk size single crystals because of the restriction availability of the material ingredients in the conventional method grown crystal. And due to the growth sector boundaries, several dislocations are appeared in the conventional method grown crystals, and we cannot grow the highly uniformity of the conventional method grown crystal. The uniformity of the conventional method grown crystal is less. Why I am telling you in my next few slides. And due to formation of solvent inclusion, low angle grain boundaries are appeared in the conventional method grown crystals. So these are some of the disadvantages of these conventional method grown crystals. Most of the solution work people are choosing this conventional slow operation method. So multinucleation formed, cracks formation, milky opaque, no single and bulk size single crystals, high dislocation, no uniformity, and low angle grain boundaries are also appeared in the conventional method grown crystals. So these are some of the conventional method grown ferroelectric and nonlinear optical single crystals. If you see any one of the conventional method grown crystals, suppose if you see these crystals, all the crystals have different planes, facets, growth sector, and growth sector boundaries. But for application point of view, device point of view, phase matchable portion is only useful, and other portions are wasted after cutting the phase matching angle. For devices like frequency doublers and optical parametric amplifiers, phase matching needs to be achieved. Otherwise, the conversion efficiency would be very low. So in this point of view, this SR method has given the solution, and it is possible to grow the crystal along its phase matching direction. Along any direction you can grow. If you want the along A plane, B, C, or different direction or phase matching direction, you can grow by this method. So this is the diglazing barium dilated single crystals grown by normal conventional collaboration method. So what we have done is we have mounted this seed crystal at the bottom of this glass sample, and we have mounted at the bottom of the glass sample, and we have grown the crystal along its direction. So whatever direction you want, you can mount and you can grow the crystal. You can get the crystal. Similarly, this is the SSD gas, sodium sulfonate dihydrate single crystals. grown by conventional method, and this is the wafers of the SR method grown. The same SHD crystals grown by this SR method, and this is the cut-and polished wafers. So this is one of the example for the SR method. So this is the morphology of the KDP single crystal. That is the standard potassium diphosphate single crystals. This is standard material for crystal growth people. So the SKG direction, the SKG orientation, phase matching direction of this material is 59 degree. So at 59 degree, we can use for laser or any other electronic application. The other portions are wasted after cutting this 59 degree. So what we have done is we have cut the phase matchable direction alone. So this 59 degree direction we have cut, and we have mounted at the bottom of the glass sample, and we have poured the saturated solution, KDP saturated solution, and we have to apply the different temperature at top and bottom portion. We have grown the crystal along its phase matching direction. This work was done in an RRK Tindu. We have reported this in Physica B, and this is a SKG directed KDP single crystal. This work was done in RRK Tindu, and this is KDP single crystals grown in our laboratory, SSN. So this is the lithium iodide single crystals grown by one of my colleague, Dr. P. Rajesh, and this is a type 2 element done in RRK Tindu, and this is the type 1 type 2 element of these lithium iodide single crystals, and this is the work done by my student Mr. P. Karpasamy. So this is the conventional method grown, the 2-amino 4-nitrophenols single crystals, and this is the SR method grown. What we have done is we have mounted at the bottom of the glass sample, and we have grown the crystal along its particular direction. So this is conventional method grown crystal, this is the SR method grown crystal, and this is the rotational Sankarana Ramasamy method, RSR method grown crystal. So this is the point seed rotation technique. The same crystal we have done in point seed rotation technique. From that we have made a SKG element, type 1, type 2 element in RRK Tindu. So this is the type 1 and this is type 2 element for device application, second harmonic generation device application. So this is the triglycerine sulfate single crystal, TGS crystal for ferroelectric application, iodide application. As I told you, we cannot use this conventional grown crystal for practical device application. Only this polar B axis, this only single portion. This polar B axis only useful for iodide application. So other portions are wasted in the conventional method. So we have to again dissolve in the beaker, and we have to grow the crystals by SR method. We can use, and this is the conventional method grown TGS crystal. This is the polar B directed TGS single crystal for ferroelectric iodide application. This is again glycine phosphate GBA single crystal for ferroelectric application. We have selected this polar B axis for ferroelectric application. We have mounted at the bottom of the glass sample, and we have grown the crystal along its polar B axis. This is the SR method grown cut and polished GBA single crystal. So the crystal growth techniques for the present investigation I am going to explain is this conventional slow operation method.
You will have to check the audio. அது மட்டும் உங்க ஆடியோ வரல.
இல்லை வருது. இப்போ வருதா சார்? ஹலோ ஹலோ சார் வருதா சார்? Hello.
And now I can hear, sir. You can proceed. கேக்குது சார்.
எவ்வளவு நேரமா வராம இருந்தது சார்?
இப்போதான் ஜஸ்ட் ஒரு previous 2 slides.
Okay. So this is the TGS crystal for iodide application. This is the crystal grown by conventional method. So what you have done is you have cut along the polar B direction, and
sir, unga screen share
given our sample to
you should share your screen.
Correct. இப்போ வரலையா ஸ்கிரீன் வரலையா சார்?
ஸ்கிரீன் வரல.
ஓகே. Wait.
Yes, sir. Okay. You can proceed.
Okay, this is the ferroelectric glycine phosphate single crystals grown by conventional method. So we have selected this polar B axis for the unidirectional growth, and we have solved the structure. We have identified the polar B direction. We have mounted at the bottom of the glass sample, and this is the crystal grown by glazing bucket crystal grown by conventional method. This is the cut and polished wafers by SR method. So the crystal growth techniques for the present investigation I am going to explain is this SR method, Sangaranarayanan Ramasamy method, and the conventional slow pressure sulfur technique. So for the growth of SR method, we have to carefully identify the all the steps, that is instrumentation, synthesis and conventional crystal growth, selection of different seed crystal orientation, that is A, B, C or phase matching direction. So whatever direction or whatever axis or whatever plane you want, you have to select using this growth direction, and different sizes of the glass sample. It depends upon the solubility of the material. If it is a low soluble material, we have to select very low ID inner diameter. If it is a highly soluble material, it can be easily growable material. So we have to select large size glass sample for the bulk growth and unidirectional crystal growth and growth optimization. We have to select temperature, two temperature, one is at top portion and another one is at top bottom portion. So only thing is we have to maintain the uniform temperature near the seed crystal interface and finally growth rate measurement. So we have to check this growth rate measurement with by applying different temperature at top and bottom portion. So at top portion, so you have to maintain the 35 degrees Celsius, what is the growth rate? 36, what is the growth rate? 37, 38, 39. So up to spurious nucleation formation, we have to check the growth rate along different direction and along different orientation and with a different temperature. So the experimental setup of this SR method consists of the glass sample, and this glass sample is kept inside the water bath, and a thin plate like a seed crystal is mounted at the bottom of the glass sample, and a small hole was made on the glass sample for solvent evaporation. After that, we have to pour the saturated solution inside the glass sample, and after few hour time, due to gravity driven concentration, all the solid molecules are approaching the crystal surface, sea crystal surface directly. So this crystal surface attracts more atoms very easily. So the concentration of the at the bottom portion is very high compared to the top portion. After few hours, after stable solution, we have to apply the two temperature. One is at top portion and one other is at the bottom portion. And the top of this temperature is for solvent evaporation, and the bottom of the temperature is for growing crystal. We have to maintain the uniform temperature near the seed crystal solution and the crystal interface for growing crystal. Otherwise, the multinucleation, that is spurious nucleation, will be formed. Then the growth will be stopped. So to avoid the temperature fluctuation of the daily variation, water is frequently added in the water bath. We have to maintain the water level in the SR growth sample. Otherwise, the temperature will not stable. So to avoid the fungus formation, freshly prepared saturated solution is frequently added in the SR growth sample. To avoid the fungus formation, we have to do that, because several organic materials, when we grow for SR method, the fungus will be formed in the even conventional method or SR method. It is easily formed. So after a few weeks or a few months time, depending upon the solubility of the material, the crystal will be grown like this. So this is the diglazing barium chloride diode single crystals grown by SR method. From a thin plate like a seed crystal, this much of large size crystal can be possible in the SR method. So here we can optimize the growth temperature. If it is a new material, we have to identify and we have to optimize the ID and OD. ID means inner diameter and OD means outer diameter. So we have to apply different temperature. What is the room temperature? It is a 33 degrees Celsius at 33 degrees Celsius at top portion and 33 degrees Celsius at the bottom portion. So what is the growth rate? 34, 35, 36, 37. So up to multinucleation formation, we have to increase the temperature and you have to optimize the growth temperature. What about the growth rate? What about the fungus formation? Everything we can identify in this SR method. So this is the selection of seed crystal cutting and mounting. This is one of the example. So this is the TGS morphology. So only polar B axis will be useful for iodide application. So we have to cut like this using fine axa blade and frame. So we have to cut like this, and we have to made a thin plate like a seed crystal, and we have to mount at the bottom of the glass sample, and we have to pour the saturated solution. So the crystal will be grown like this. So this is the schematic diagram. This is the actual experimental setup of this SR method. So the mounted seed crystal is here. So this is the unidirectional method grown TGS milk crystal along the polar this V direction. So some of the advantages of this SR method. So single crystal with specific orientation in a glass sample. So this is TGS crystals. So we can grow if we want to B axis, we can grow by this method. If we want the C axis, this is the C axis. This is the C directed grown SR method grown TGS crystal. So this is the A directed TGS crystals. So only thing is we have to identify so which plane or which direction is useful for. If it is a NLO material, it can be useful for SKG application. If it is a ferroelectric material, that polar B axis will be useful for ferroelectric application. So that we have to identify and we have to mount at the bottom of the glass sample. Then it can be very easy to identify the phase matching direction. So easily we can find out the growth rate along any plane. This is LIC mono heterocloride single crystals. So we have to mount different direction. So this is what I want to convey. So we can mount this direction, we can grow the crystals, we can mount A direction, we can mount D direction, we can mount C direction. So at different plane, so what is the growth rate under identical temperature at 40 degrees Celsius at bottom, sorry, top and room temperature at bottom. So different plane under identical temperature, what is the growth rate? What is the growth rate? That we can identify in this SR method. So the entire quantity of the solution is converted into the crystal. So if 1 liter solution means 1 liter solution we can convert from solution to crystal. That is one of the main advantages of this SR method. This is the 15 centimeter longest TGS crystal. Here we have mounted, you can easily see TGS seed crystal. So this much of transparent and without milky opaque, without cracks are possible in this SR method. So this is the 15 mm longest TGS crystal grown by this SR method. The scaling up was relatively very simple in this method. So with a thin plate like a seed crystal, this much of large size crystal can be possible in this SR method. So we have mounted only 2 mm. In fact, less than 2 mm only we have mounted. This is a sodium sulfide dilated single crystals by conventional method. This is A direction. We have mounted at the bottom of the glass sample. We have to pour the solution. This much of large size without cracks, without milky opaque, and less dislocations can be possible in this SR method. So crystal grown by conventional method will be like this. So the enucleation will be start like this with Armstrong and nanometer, millimeter and centimeter. The crystal will be grown like this with different morphology. If suppose this is the SKG element, this is can be only useful for practical device application means. So the uniformity of the conventional method growth crystal is very less because you can see. So this is the growth in a day. This is the growth in a 2-day time. This is a 3-day. This is a week. This is the month time. This is the 2-month time. So different growth period. So there is no uniformity in the conventional method grown crystals. But in the case of SR method, it is a layer by layer growth. You can see it is a layer by layer growth. So comparable to the conventional method, the uniformity of the SR method growing crystal is very high. This is what I want to convey. This is the growth of mixed crystals reported in a powder XRD journal. These crystals have been grown one of the Chinese laboratory, sodium chlorobromide single crystal. They have checked the uniformity of the grown crystal. So this is appeared in the journal. A polarization microscope examination revealed that the observed color is perpendicular to the growth direction of this sodium chlorobromide crystal is uniform. This is the uniform, indicating that the ingredient of the crystal is homogeneous comparable to the conventional method grown crystals. So in that direction, which is consistent with a flat growth interface of the crystal. This is reported in one of the Chinese laboratory. So the requirement of large crystal growth chamber is avoided in the conventional SR method. So if we want to do the crystal growth experiment in the SR method, we need only 2 temperature controller. One is for top portion and the another one is for bottom portion. 2 RTD sensor to sense the temperature at top and bottom portion separately, 2 ammeter, 2 thermometer, 2 transformer, and one glass ampoule, one water bath. Now, water bath is nothing but a fish tank only, and a dust creamer. So within 5 to 6,000 rupees, we can make our own experimental setup of SR method in our laboratory. Only thing is we have to use a UPS connection. Otherwise, growth is not possible in this SR method. So this is the crystal grown by conventional method morphology we have selected. So this much of large size good quality single crystals by solution method is possible in SR method. But in the case of melt growth technique like Zagoralski, Bridgman, or float zone method, microtube Zagoralski, constant temperature path with cryogenic, without cryogenic, we need it cost around more than 10 lakh. So we need furnace, cooler, microcontroller, sensor, everything we need. So this is one of the main advantages in SR method. And a thin layer of solution is in between the crystal and the glass ampoule. So there is no mechanical stress in the grown crystal. So length to breadth ratio can be varied at with a stoichiometric solution depending upon the pH of the solution. So the growth direction can be maximized in any crystal. So this is the conventional method grown KDP single crystal. So this is the SR method grown KDP single crystal along its C direction. This pencil tape KDP single crystal is possible only in SR method with a different pH of the solution. So not only cylindrical shape, depending upon the shape of the crucible, any shape can be possible in this SR method. So this is the organic benzophenone single crystals for nonlinear optical application. So we can grow square shaped crystal, we can grow rectangular shaped crystal, we can grow prism shaped crystal. If the ample, you have to select the ample shape, then any shape can be possible in this SR method. So crystal which have post-growth cracking tendency can be avoided in the SR method. So this is the 2-amino-bichlorobenzophenone single crystals grown by conventional method due to temperature instability. Several micro cracks, milky opaques are formed in the grown crystals by conventional method. But in the case of SR method, we have maintained the two temperature. One is the top portion, another is the bottom portion. There is no temperature fluctuation, uniform supersaturation, uniform solvent evaporation, uniform growth rate. There will not be any disturbance like this. There will not be any micro cracks, milky opaques in the SR method grown crystal. So the crystal quality is always superior to the conventional method grown crystal. This we have identified with several characterization, like for structural perfection, we have carried out the HRXRD measurement, that is a high resolution X-ray diffraction measurement. For dislocation density, we have carried out the chemical etching measurement. To identify the optical homogeneity, we have carried out the birefringence measurement. To identify the mechanical stability, Vickers Megan harness, optical quality, UV linear measurement, electrical permittivity. Almost we have confirmed, we have grown the crystal along identical under identical condition with two different methods, that is conventional method and this industrial method. Under identical condition, we have seen what is the structural properties, what is the physical properties, what is the crystalline perfection. We have confirmed, and the final conclusion will be the crystal quality is always, the crystal grown by SR method is always superior compared to the conventional slow operation method grown crystal. So far, by this method, more than 250 numbers of crystals have been grown. We can grow low soluble like potassium acetylate crystal, and we can grow moderate solubility like TGS crystal. We can grow high soluble like benzophenone single crystals. You see, 12.5 gram per 100 ml, it is a low soluble material. 34 gram per 100 ml moderate soluble. 265 gram per 100 ml is a very high soluble. We have selected this benzophenone single crystals for the longest solution crystal. So we can grow organic crystal, we can grow semi-iron crystal, we can grow inorganic material, positive soluble, negative soluble. Anything can be possible in this SR method. So this is the low soluble KAP single crystal, and this is the moderate soluble TGA single crystal, and this is the highly soluble benzophenone single crystals, 850 mm longest crystal, and this is a negative soluble lithium sulfate single crystal. So the total length of the from the experience in SR method, we have attempted to grow the world longest solution wood crystal. The total length of the grown crystal is more than 1 meter, exactly saying 1350 mm longest and 5.5 centimeter diameter of the grown crystal. This we have done with the collaboration of NPL, National Physical Laboratory in New Delhi. We are reported in 2012. This is the 8 feet experimental setup of this SR method. So we have maintained one temperature at top ocean. So one bucket is there and the water bath is there. And this is for solvent evaporation. So this is the benzophenone material with xylene solvent. The 265 gram per 100 ml, the solubility. The solubility is very high for benzophenone. So only we have selected this benzophenone for longest growth. The seed crystal is here. We have maintained the uniform temperature at the bottom portion for the longest growth. The crystal will be grown like this. So this much of transference crystal can be possible in this SR method. So this is the morphology of the benzophenone single crystals. We have selected this A direction for the longest growth because the growth rate along this A direction is high compared to the other B and C direction. So this is the growth portion. So the transparent portion is started. So this is the 850 mm longest benzophenone crystal. This is the 1350 mm longest benzophenone organic single crystal for nonlinear optical application. This is the double diffraction pattern of this benzophenone single crystal. The total thickness of this crystal is 5 centimeter. So how to harvest the crystal from the glass sample? Just 2 slides I will explain. So this is the 15 centimeter longest TGS crystals without any cracks, milky opaque. This much of transparent crystals can be grown in the SR method. Here the saturation solution is there. So the temperature is around I think 40 degrees Celsius at top portion. So here we have maintained that 34 degrees Celsius at bottom portion. So we have to kept out from the water bath. So we have to reduce the temperature from 42 per day 0.25 degrees Celsius or 0.5 degrees Celsius. It depends upon the solubility of the material. We have to choose the cooling rate of the bath. So we have to wait until it reaches the room temperature. So this is the SR method grown TGS ferroelectric material inside the glass sample. Now using this diamond wheel cutter, we have to remove at top and bottom portion. We have to remove this two portion. So this is the 15 centimeter longest TGS crystal inside the glass sample. Then using the diamond wheel cutter, sorry, not diamond wheel cutter, diamond glass cutter, we have to mark at top and bottom portion separately. We have to do very slowly and very carefully. Otherwise, the cracks will be formed in the glass sample. So very carefully, you have to mark at top and bottom portion separately. Then we have to, using these sharp knife things, we have to remove the glass sample very slowly. So this is the 15 centimeter longest TGS crystal without any glass sample. This is the as it is TGS crystals grown inside the glass sample. So here we have mounted at the bottom of the glass sample. The TGS seed is there along polar P direction. So this much of transfer crystal can be possible. Now, how to cut the crystal from the SR method grown crystal? So this is the as grown 15 centimeter longest TGS crystal grown by this SR method. Using this diamond wheel cutter, we have to cut very slowly and very carefully. And ethylene glycol is kept inside the tray in order to avoid the any temperature thermal stress into the grown crystals. So this is the speed controller based on the mechanical stability of the material. We have to choose the this speed. If it is a low soluble material, we have to choose. We have to rotate very slowly. If it is a moderate soluble material, we have to rotate moderately. If it is a very high soluble, very high hardest material, we can use any rotation we need. So this is the cut portion of the TGS single crystal. This is the as-grown crystal. This is the diamond wheel cutter, and it is touched in the ethylene glycol. So this is almost cut portion of this TGS crystal. So this is the cut portion of TGS crystal. This is the as-grown TGS crystal grown by SR method. This is the cut and polished TGS wafer. That is, this is the top portion. This is the middle portion, and this is the bottom portion. Now I am going to show some of the SR method grown crystal for your understanding. So this is a sodium sulfide diator single crystals. for nonlinear optical application. In the previous stage, in the previous years, we have used this fine action blade and frame. Now we have the crystal. Now we have this crystal cutting machine. So this is the cut and polished wafers of this SLG single crystal, and this is the cut and polished wafers, and this is the diglazing zinc chloride diode single crystals grown by SR method, and this is the diglazing bearing with the same crystal and the crystal wafers. And this is the SR method grown P2C4N, that is the 2 amino pi nitroprotein derivative single crystals supported by SCRB. This is the actron crystal with the glass ample. This is the cut and polished wafers, and this is the low soluble potassium acid thalate single crystal. This is the TJS crystal along its polar B direction. This is the glazing phosphate single crystal along B direction. This is the 2 amino pi nitroprotein and derivative single crystals by modified SR method. I will explain in the next few slides why we modified in this case. And this is the C-directed diglazing bearing rod diode single crystal with a different ample diameter, inner and upper diameter. This is a sodium para-nitrophenotype single crystals. So we have grown the crystal by slow evaporation method and SR method, Sagana Ramasamy method. In order to identify the structural properties of the grown crystal, we have used this single crystal X-ray diffraction measurement. And to identify the crystalline perfection of the grown crystal, high resolution X-ray diffraction measurement was performed. To identify the dislocation density of the grown crystal, chemical etching measurement was performed. So in order to identify the laser diameter threshold for a laser application like KDP or other material, one must know the laser diameter threshold value of the grown crystals. So under identical condition, we have performed all this characterization. So identify the mechanical property of the grown crystals, because micro harness measurement was performed. To identify the optical property of the grown crystals, UV scenario measurement was performed. Electrical properties, dielectric permittivity and dielectric loss, to identify the optical homogeneity, Bayer Princess measurement was performed. So the samples, which means the crystals grown by conventional and SR method, the crystals were prepared with identical thickness under identical condition. The surface damage is affected by the energy absorbing defects such as strains, scratches, and the polishing contaminants, which strongly influence the physical properties. Therefore, all the characterization experiments are performed on the highly polished crystals, thus minimizing any surface defects. In order to confirm the reproducibility of all the characterization, all the characterization techniques were repeated several times, and more or less similar results have been observed in all the characterization techniques. So to identify the crystalline perfection of the grown crystal, high resolution X-ray diffraction measurements was performed under identical thickness. This is for conventional method and this is for SR method. For good quality single crystal, the FWHM full width at a half maximum of the grown crystal must be very single and sharp peak we have to get. So this is for SR method, the single and the sharp peak. So, but in the case of SR conventional method, there are a lot of gross at boundaries. So the entrapment of solvent molecules into the crystalline matrix are responsible for observing this kind of low-angle grain boundaries. I have also explained the due to temperature instability, lot of solvent inclusions are appeared in the conventional method grown crystals. Lot of micro cracks, milky opaques are appeared in the conventional slow operation method grown crystal. Because of that, there are a lot of low-angle grain boundaries are appeared in the conventional method grown crystal. But in the case of we have maintained the SR method, we have maintained the uniform temperature, so stable supersaturation, stable evaporation rate. There will not be any solvent inclusion or micro cracks, milky opaque, or in the SR method grown crystal. But there must be some dislocation. But compared to the conventional method, the SR method grown crystal dislocation is very less, that we can easily identify in the HR X-ray measurement and the chemical etching measurement. So this is another one example of this SR method grown FWHM, 17 hours second in the SR method. So the full width at the half maximum of the SR method grown crystal is 15 hours second, which is slightly more than that of the expected from the plane wave theory of dynamical X-ray diffraction for an ideally perfect crystal, but close to that expected for a nearly perfect crystal. But in the case of conventional, there are a lot of low angle grain boundaries, 56 hours second, 32, 39 and 25 because of the low angle grain boundaries are appeared in the conventional method grown crystal. So this is again for benzophenone, that word longest solution grown crystal 23 hours again for conventional method grown crystal, but in the case of SR method is 10 hours again. This is the one, that longest crystal. So this is for SR method 10 hours again. This is a very perfect crystal, and this is the 23 for conventional method grown crystal. So chemical etching is an important and powerful tool to identify the dislocation content into present in the conventional and SR method grown crystal. So this is for diglazine zinc chloride single crystal. This is for conventional method. So using the formula number of HP divided by area. So manually we have to count the number of HP. The area means length into breadth. So here the scale is there. So what is the length and what is the breadth? Length and breadth is the area. So number of HP divided by area. From that we can identify the HP density of the HP density is nothing but the dislocation density. Dislocation density of the conventional method grown crystal. It is a 5.2 into 10 power 2 centimeter power minus 2. But in the case of SR grown crystal is 2.1. Here we can easily see that the number of H bits in the conventional method grown crystal is very high comparable to the SR method under identical condition. This is under identical condition, under identical scale, the HP density. So this is the low soluble KAP single crystal. This is for conventional method grown crystal. This is for SR method grown crystal. So for conventional method, 16.7 into 10 power 2 centimeter per minus 2. But in the case of SR grown crystal, it is a half, 8.8 into 10 power 2. So this is the sodium sulfide divided single crystals. This is for conventional method and this is for SR method. So low HP density in SR method, which clearly indicates the crystalline perfection of the SR method grown crystal is very high, which we have already seen in the HRXD measurements also. So with low full width at half maximum with a single peak in SR method grown crystal, almost all the crystal, the similar cases are appeared. So this is for 5 seconds, this is for 10 seconds. So on successive etching for 5 to 10 seconds, the H bit, the same H bits enlarge its size, retaining their geometrical shape and do not disappear, thus suggesting that the bits are due to the dislocation. So they are randomly distributed, but strictly oriented H bits are seen in the conventional and SR method also. So these are various type of defects appeared in the conventional method grown TGS crystal. There are solvent inclusion due to the temperature instability. There are low angle grain boundaries we have seen in the HRXD measurements. Micro cracks, this we can visibly seen in the any conventional method grown crystals. Milky opaques and microcrystallites, and these are some of the growth defects that appeared in almost all the conventional method grown crystals because of the temperature instability and the temperature availability of the material ingredients. Almost all the conventional method crystals are having this kind of inclusions, grain boundaries, microcracks, milky opaque, and microcrystallites, etc. These are some of the various type of defects appeared in the conventional method grown TGS crystals. So, but in the SR method, what we have done is we have mounted a single and morphology defined facet. So we mounted the seed crystals here at the bottom of the glass sample. So single and morphological defined facet, there is no growth sector boundaries or less growth sector boundaries comparable to the conventional method grown crystal. So there is no growth sector boundaries, no micro inclusions, and no milky opaque in the SR method grown crystal. So naturally, the mechanical stability, optical quality, crystalline perfection of the SR method grown crystal is high, superior comparable to the normal conventional collaboration method grown crystals. But in the case of SR method, you can see there are a lot of growth sector boundaries. So it has been already reported that the dislocations are originated from the growth sector boundaries. But in the case of SR method, there are less growth sector boundaries or no growth sector boundaries. So to identify the mechanical stability of the grown crystals, Vickers microharness measurements was performed. So this is for SR method. This blue color indicates the SR method. This red color indicates the conventional method. Because of the higher crystalline perfection, higher mechanical stability, and the higher every physical properties. So naturally, the mechanical stability of the SR method grown crystal is high comparable to the normal conventional method grown crystal. This is the numerical number HV value. In the unit is kilogram per millimeter square. At 100 gram load, 64.3 kilogram per millimeter square for SR method. In the case of conventional method, it is a 58.2 kilogram per millimeter square. This under identical condition. So this is again for glycine phosphate single crystals. This blue indicates the SR method, and this red indicates the conventional method. So the crack reduction is higher in the SR method because of the higher mechanical stability. The reduction of the micro cracks appeared in the SR grown crystal is high. I will explain in next few slides with the animation. So this is for SR method grown crystal. This is for conventional method grown crystal. Because of the higher mechanical stability, the number of micro cracks appeared near the indentation is higher in SR method, but in the case of conventional grown crystals, it is less compared to the conventional method grown crystal. This is the 15 centimeter longest TGS crystal. This is the bottom portion. This is the middle portion. This is the top portion. You have carried out the Vickers microharness measurement for this bottom, middle, and top portion. So number of micro cracks appeared in the indentation are high in SR method. For that purpose only, we have carried out this Vickers microharness measurement. We have checked the harness property of the grown crystal. So this is the animation. The reason for less number of cracks. This is the TGS crystal. Less number of cracks of the conventional grown crystal is that when the indenter lands on the surface of the crystal around it is displayed smoothly in the soft material. The flow of material under indenter cannot take place smoothly. Is a reason for formation of more number of micro cracks in the SR method grown crystal. This is almost common for all the SR method grown bulk size single crystal. So the reason for lower mechanical stability in the conventional method grown crystal is solvent inclusion. So the variety of parameters such as variation in supersaturation, minor fluctuation during growth, and non-uniform growth rates are covered in the solvent inclusions. So these are some of the solvent inclusion pattern of the conventional method grown crystal. So this is the sodium chlorobromide iodide crystal. This is alkyl halide crystals. So this is the some of the solvent inclusion patterns appeared for our own crystal. Diglycine zinc chloride, glycine oxalate, TGS, and this is sodium bromide, glycine phosphate, and L-arginine hydrofluoride single crystal. These are some of the solvent inclusions appeared in the conventional method grown crystal. But in the case of SR method, as I told you several times, we have maintained the temperature top and bottom portion. So stable temperature, stable supersaturation, stable evaporation rate. There is no solvent inclusion in the case of SR method comparable to the normal conventional slow operation solution growth method. So in conventional method, normally the crystal will be grown like this. This is the submerged seed solution. This is the conventional method grown crystal. In conventional method, the crystal will be grown normally like this in the diffusion process. So the material availability, the availability of material ingredient is less in conventional method. But in the case of SR method, after 3 hours, due to gravity-driven concentration, all the solid molecules are approaching the crystal surface directly. So this crystal surface attracts more atoms very easily. So there is no solvent inclusion in the SR method grown crystal. So for laser application, one must know the laser damage threshold value. So under identical condition, we have performed this laser damage threshold value. The maximum laser induced damage threshold of this SSDK, sodium sulfate iodide, that golden color crystal. This is for conventional method. This is for SR method. 12 millijoule per centimeter square in a single shot mode. This is for conventional method. Under identical thickness, this is for SR method. It is a 17 millijoule per centimeter square. Because of the higher mechanical stability, the crystal is damaged like this. But in the case of no cracks in the conventional method grown crystals. So this is the damage morphology of the SR and the conventional method grown crystals. So because of the low mechanical stability, the damage morphology of the conventional grown crystal is high, but in the case of damage morphology, it is less. So then we have compared the electrical properties of the conventional and SR method grown crystals. Some crystals we have selected and we have carried out the electrical properties of the grown crystal for comparative purpose. So dielectric permittivity of the crystalline material is a second track tensor. For orthorhombic crystal, there are 3 independent components. For monoclinic crystal, there are 4 independent components. So normally crystal people, what we have done is we have selected a particular direction. In conventional method, what is the dominant plane? If it is a direction, So this is the A direction for conventional method. Similarly, we have to choose the B direction. Similarly, we have to choose the A direction for SR method also. So and identical thickness, what is the dielectric permittivity value? Here, but we have carried out the dielectric tensor permittivity value of the SR grown crystal. So this is the C directed SSDK, sodium sulfide dihydrogen single crystals. So what we have done is we have cut the crystal along its A direction, along its B direction, and along its C direction. Under identical thickness, we have carried out the dielectric permittivity values. So anisotropic in the dielectric behavior was observed in the SR method grown SSDK single crystals. So this is blue color for A direction, 100, and red color for B direction, 010, and this green color for C direction, 001 direction. Anisotropic in the dielectric behavior was observed in the case of SR method grown SSDK single crystal, and this is the dielectric loss value of all the three direction dielectric tensor value. This three direction for SR method grown crystal, and this is for conventional method grown crystal. Because of the higher optical quality, higher optical homogeneity, higher mechanical stability, higher crystalline perfection, the dielectric loss value for the SR grown crystal is less comparable to the conventional method grown crystal. So this is the monoclinic crystal, monoclinic glazing phosphate single crystals. Here we have done, we have grown the crystal along its polar B direction, and we have cut the crystal along its A, B, C direction, and 45-degree perpendicular to the B direction. So we have carried out the A, B, and the secret crystal, and this is the fourth tensor value. So I carried out the dielectric permittivity value along the four different directions. And here also we can see the dielectric tensor value for the glazing phosphate single crystals grown by SR method. So this is the temperature profile for the TGS single crystal dielectric permittivity value. So when the dielectric value increases, the temperature also when the temperature increases, the dielectric permittivity value also increases, and having maximum dielectric permittivity at 49 degrees Celsius. So before this 49 degree Celsius, this crystal, this triglazing sulfate crystal, belongs to the ferroelectric phase. After this 49 degree, the crystal belongs to the paraelectric phase. This is a special material for the crystal growth people. So almost all the people are doing this for conventional method, SR method, R.S.R. method, and other solution growth method also. The dielectric permittivity value for the SR grown crystal is 64.2. But in the case of conventional method grown crystal is 49.5. The higher dielectric permittivity and the lower dielectric loss in the case of SR grown crystal, which clearly indicates the crystalline perfection, the optical quality of the SR grown crystal is high comparable to the normal conventional method grown crystal. So to identify the optical, yes, sir.
We shall complete it with another 5 minutes.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. So this is now we have to identify the optical characteristic of the grown crystal. So in our visibly, if you see the conventional SR grown crystal, it is a transparent only. But this is a microscopic images of the conventional method grown crystal. There are lot of roughness are appeared in the conventional method grown crystal. This crystal. So visibly it is transparent. This is also transparent. This is the microscopic image under identical scale. So a lot of roughness appeared in the conventional method grown crystals, but in the case of SR method, here also there is a roughness, but compared to the conventional method, the roughness of the SR grown crystal is less because of the higher crystalline perfection nature. Because there are a lot of dislocation infiltrations are appeared in the conventional method grown crystal. The scattering centers are main role to reduce the optical properties of the grown crystal. In conventional grown crystal, there are a lot of scattering centers appeared in the conventional method grown crystal, but in the case of SR method, there is a higher crystalline perfection. Because of the higher crystalline perfection, the scattering centers appeared in the SR grown crystal is less. So there is a higher output intensity, but in the case of conventional method grown crystal, due to scattering centers, the output intensity is less compared to the conventional method grown crystal. So only the UVSNIR value of SR grown crystal is SR grown diglazing zinc fluoride crystal is 66%, but in the case of less output intensity because of the scattering center, it is 55%. UV is a transmittance measurement. So this is again UV vision a comparative statement. So the final conclusion of the conventional and SR method grown crystal is because of the micro cracks, milky opaques, low angle grain boundaries, growth center boundaries, their physical properties like mechanical stability, UV vision, optical quality, electrical permittivity of the conventional method grown crystal is less comparable to the SR method grown crystal. So from this results, we can easily conclude that in the case of application point of view, the crystal grown by SR method is more suitable for practical device application. Anything for ferroelectric material for IR data application or NLO material for SKG application. So SR method is more suitable compared to the conventional slow operation method. I will quickly explain one slide. So this is the convective fluid pattern of the SR method grown benzoin crystal. This is the bottom portion. So here the seed crystal is there. So here the seed crystal is there. So how the crystal is growing due to gravity driven concentration. So when we grow the crystals by SR method, the small plume is started at the bottom of the glass sample. Plume is nothing but movement of fluid flow from high concentration to low concentration. You can consider any one plume. If you consider this plume, the plume is started from the bottom of the glass sample. Now it is moving upwards, 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 and finally it disappeared. Now new plumes are started at the bottom of the glass sample. So from this shadowgraphy and the maxillary interferometry, we can easily conclude that the gravity-driven concentration is only responsible for the growth of SR method grown crystal. So for this purpose, we have selected this benzoin crystal. This is the quartz sample. We have selected for maxillary and shadowgraphy images. So this is the as-grown benzoin single crystals. So we have carried out the triglazing sulfate single crystals, TGS crystal. So below and above TC also. For curiosity, we have done this. So this is the TGS crystals at the paraelectric phase. So we have compared the characterization, piezoelectric coefficient of the ferroelectric phase 25 picocoulomb per Newton, but in the case of paraelectric phase 35 picocoulomb per Newton, and a dielectric permittivity value in the case of ferroelectric material 205, but in the case of ferroelectric it is more than 1000. And the UV NAR measurements have been carried out for the ferroelectric and the paraelectric phases of the TGS single crystals. At the paraelectric 91%, but in the case of above TC, that is a paraelectric phase 86%. And this is the Vickers microharness measurement at paraelectric phases. The crystalline perfection, the physical properties and the crystalline perfection of the grown crystal is high comparable to the ferroelectric phases grown TGS single crystals. So this is a modified exploded setup of this SR method. We have grown the 2-amino 5-nitroprotein derivative single crystals by this SR method. So we have chosen methanol, ethanol, acetone kind of solvent for this SR method because the solubility of this material is very high. So easily spurious nucleation is formed on the top of the SR glass sample. So we made a glass bend like this. So we have modified the SR glass sample. We have maintained the uniform one temperature. We mounted at the bottom of the glass sample. So if it is a spurious nucleation is formed, it falls only in the top of the glass sample. So it will not affect the grown crystals. So this is the spurious nucleation formation at the top of the SR glass sample. So because of the small modification made in the SR glass sample, we have grown the crystal 2-amino 5-nitroprotein single crystals. This is a conventional method grown crystal. This is the SR grown crystal. This is a cut and polish wafers. So this is a point seed rotation technique. We have chosen this 4-nitrophenols derivative single crystals for SKG direction. We have mounted a small thin plate like a seed crystals at this platform, and we have poured the solution and the 5-liter solution, and you have rotate and clockwise, and you have grown the crystal along its phase matching direction. and this is the 4 entrepreneur derivative single crystals. So from these crystals, we have identified the type 1, type 2 SHG element in RRK Tindur, and we have identified the type 1, type 2 SHG element, and we have planned to mount at the bottom of the glass sample, and we are yet to grow the SHG element direction and grown these 4 intermittent derivative single crystals. So normally in conventional method, the crystal will be grown like this because of the several growth sector boundaries appearing in the conventional grown crystals. So the dislocations are originated from the growth sector boundaries. It is one thing. And another one thing is because of the several growth bands and growth sector boundaries, the impurities are accumulated in the conventional method grown crystals. So we have used anyway, we have used the several times recrystallized materials only. Even though you used several times recrystallized material, some impurities are always appeared in the prepared saturated solution that affect the crystalline perfection naturally. So in SR method also, we have used it under identical condition only. We have grown the crystals in conventional method, in SR method also. So in SR method also, we have prepared the several times recrystallized material and we have poured the solution. After 1 or 2 centimeters growth, depending upon the solubility of the material, so the impurities are accumulated at the top of the glass sample. So it destroys the growth like this. This is the as-grown crystals. So like this, it will destroy the growth. The impurities are accumulated or incorporated in the SR growth sample. So in order to avoid this impurities accumulation, we have made a small hole like this. Several slabs we have made in the SR glass sample, and we have grown the crystal like this. So here the impurities are filtered from the glass sample. So the impurities can be controlled in the RSR method compared with the RSR. So here also we have faced one problem. There are some spurious negation of pump. In order to avoid that spurious negation, also now modified the SR glass tube like this made. So there is no disturbance in the RSR method. And this is the crystal grown by RSR method with the slag, and this is the crystal grown by RSR method with the tube. So this is the slatted ampoule RSR method. This is the cut and polish wafers. So this is the crystal grown by conventional method, and this is crystal grown by SR method, and this is the crystal grown by RSR method. So the crystalline perfection of the conventional SR RSR method have been identified using this high resolution X-ray diffraction. I already told you for better crystalline perfection, the FWHM value of the material must be very low. It must be very shingle and sharp. The FWHM value of the conventional method grown crystal is 56.5 hours again. Under identical condition, under identical purity, Merck GR get 99.99 purity, under identical thickness, we have made all the experiment. But in the case of SR method, we have avoided the growth sector boundaries, solvent inclusion, milky opaque, everything we have avoided. So the FWHM of the SR method growing crystal is 45.5 hours again. So in order to reduce the impurities content presented in the SR method grown crystals, we have made the RSR method. The FWHM of this RSR method is 30 hours again. So from this measurement, we have easily conclude that the crystal grown by RSR method is very, very superior comparable to the SR and the conventional method grown crystal. Now several crystals we are planning to grow by this RSR method. So this is the chemical etching for this is for SR, this is the RSR. So 2 into 10 power 4 centimeter power minus 2 for SR method. In the case of RSR method, it is less. So this is the UV NAR measurement, 80%, but in the case of SR method, 75%. This is the Vickers microharness measurement. So more mechanical stability appeared in the RSR method grown crystal compared to the SR method grown crystals. And this is the lacy damage threshold pattern for this is the SR and this is for RSR method. It is high. So the final message for my presentation is, so if you want to grow a good quality single crystals, so if solution growth can give you that crystal, so grown by this unidirectional method, especially in the RSR method. So acknowledgement, I must thank SCRB and BRNS. DST Solar Energy Research Initiative and SSN Internal Project Scheme, our SSN Trust for the financial support, and our collaborators Dr. Sunil Verma, Colonel from RRK Tindur, Dr. Saswari San, Dr. Mohit Tyagi from BRC, Dr. Vijayan from National Physical Laboratory, Dr. Vinay Kumar from Madras University of Delhi, Dr. Venugopal Rao from University of Hyderabad. There are a lot more collaborators are there, but in this particular work, so we have carried out the several characterizations in the RRK, TNPL, and BRC, Hyderabad University. And my special thanks to my full-time PhD students, Dr. V. Sivasubramani and Dr. P. Karupasamy. These students have recently completed their PhD. And Mr. T. Kamalesh, they are actually made all this progress in this SR and RSR method. I must thank them for that. And thank you for your kind attention. I am
Thank
happy
you,
to
sir.
respond to any questions. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your speech was crystal clear. Now it's time for question session. I invite Dr. R. Vishnu Priya Madam to moderate the question session.
Sir, it seems every participant wants me to express appreciation of your inspiring presentation in the chat box, for your research, for the depth of the
Thank you.
understanding of your user interface, and your ability to present the subject in such an interesting way. So this has really produced one of the most memorable morning in our group's history, sir. Now, passing on to the
I
question.
welcome all the participants to our Customer Center. After this lockdown period, they are most welcome to come to Research Center for 1 or 2 days. They will learn all the crystal techniques. In fact, we have some solar cell research activity also. And they are almost welcome to see our lab and listen. And they can also stay there with 1 or 2 days, and they can learn lot of crystal techniques in our lab. They are most
It's
welcome.
really a great opportunity for the participants, sir. Now,
Yes.
passing on to the question, sir. Uh,
Yes.
can you brief about the post-growth cracking is absent in SR method, grown crystal compared to the convention crystal?
Yes. In conventional, I will choose only conventional method and SR method. In the case of conventional method, we have grown the crystal at the daytime, at afternoon time, at raining time, at night time. So everything is possible only. But due to this temperature instability, so at the morning time, it must be some 34 degrees Celsius. At afternoon time, it must be some 35 degrees Celsius. At raining time, at night time, it must be some 28 or 29 degrees Celsius because of the temperature instability in the growth path, which means the beaker or crystallizer. So wherever they grown the conventional method grown crystal, due to this temperature instability, several micro cracks are appeared in the conventional method grown crystal. Because quartz crystal, it is a periodic arrangement of atoms. Normally, the crystal will be grown like this. But in the case of small disturbance happened in the conventional method grown crystal, there are a lot of micro cracks, milky opaques are appeared in the conventional method grown crystal. But in the case of SR method, what we have done is we have maintained the uniform temperature. We have maintained the two different temperature, top and bottom portion. So we have controlled the temperature. We have optimized the temperature. So uniform solvent evaporation, uniform supersaturation, uniform growth rate. There will not be any micro cracks appeared in the SR method grown crystal. There are not any micro cracks. There are not any milky opaque. There are not any solvent infiltrations are present in the SR method grown crystal. So only the physical properties of the SR grown crystal is superior compared to the normal conventional method grown crystals. It is not very complicated.
And
It is
then,
very simple only. Within a 5 to 6,000 rupees, they can easily arrange the SR method also. They
the
can
next
do any
question,
number of
thank you.
any crystals. Yes.
Thank you, sir. And the next question is how to identify the NLO property of an element before doing the growth process?
Pardon, madam? How to identify the?
How to identify the NLO property of an element before doing the growth process?
For that, you have to identify the structural properties. Using the single crystal XRD, you can easily see the ABC value, whether it is a centrosymmetric material or non-centrosymmetric material. If we want to make a SHG element, second harmonic generation element, we have to choose the non-centrosymmetric material. So first we got to choose the non-centrosymmetric material. We got to select the material purity. We got to select the solvent. You have to grow the crystal by conventional method. You have to send the sample for single crystal XRD measurement, and the powder XRD measurement, sorry, powder SKG, second harmonic generation efficiency is available in IAC Bangalore PKDAS lab. So you have to check the SKG efficiency of your own material. If you want to check the SKG efficiency of your single crystal, there are few labs are only having this kind of measurement like BRC, RRK Tendur. We made our SKG element in RRK Tendur only. So you have to send the sample to RRK Tendur. You have to wait some weeks or some months time. You have to get the result. This is the only way. After that only you have to select whether what is the SKG efficiency of the material 1, 2, 3, 4. So then now you have to select the highest SKG efficiency material. You have to choose by SR method, and you have to grow a large size single crystal. You have to cut and you have to polish. You have to make like a wafer. Now you have to identify the type 1, type 2 SKG element from the SKG, from the SR method grown crystal. That is the only possible way.
Okay, sir. The next question is ferroelectric crystals possibly grown using solution growth method?
Yes,
Can the ferroelectric crystals be grown?
yes, yes, madam. Yes, solution
Okay,
growth
okay,
is
sir.
one of the way. I don't know whether it can be growable in melt growth also. I have no experience on that. We have grown several ferroelectric material like TGS, glazing phosphate, and other potassium alum phthalate also we have grown by conventional and SR method. So I don't know about the melt growth technique whether it can be grown like Bridgman or Zegralski method. I don't know.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Next is how microcracks help with the mechanical stability in SR method.
So this is the only way to identify the mechanical measurement because the calculation for the Vickers Megahertz measurement is HV equal to, I will tell you the formula, HV is equal to 1.854 P by D square. P is the load in terms of gram. D is the diagonal length. So you have to see the diagonal length. You have to see the what is D1 and D2. So D1 is the diagonal length of the left side and diagonal length of the right side. So D1 plus D2 divided by 2 is the D value. So from that diagonal length only you have to calculate the HV measurement, HV value. So without D value, diagonal length value, you cannot calculate the HV value because Megahertz measurement.
Next question is there any effect of magnetic field to the SR method, sir?
One of our colleague, Dr. Singaravadi, he is doing that magnetic effect of magnetic field in SR method, but he is doing right now. There are no any fruitful results. We are yet to see the results, madam. But crystal is growing. He is growing the potassium alum carried single crystals with the effect of magnetic field. The crystal is growing. You got to after the growing crystals, we got to cut and polish. We got to send for characterization. After that only, you got to check the results. Ferroelectric, piezoelectric result or mechanical property, UV vis NIR. You have to compare the normal SR method and the magnetic field with SR method. You got to check, madam. We are to do that.
Okay. Next question is crystallinity related with the electrical conductivity, sir?
Pardon, madam. Crystallinity.
Is crystallinity related with the electrical conductivity?
Yes, yes. We have carried out the dielectric permittivity and a dielectric loss value also. If the crystalline perfection is very high, the dielectric permittivity must be very high and the dielectric loss must be very low. Because what is dielectric loss? It is a loss of dissipation of energy. So if the crystalline perfection is very high, the dielectric loss must be very low. Dielectric permittivity value must be very high. So we have carried out under the identical condition.
Thank you, sir. Still, there are very many questions. Due to time constraints, let us stop here. And
Maybe you
I hope.
can give my email ID. They will
Sure,
send
sir. We
the.
have posted it. We'll post it, sir.
I will try to
And
respond.
sir will
All
be
the best.
happy to answer all the questions if you post to him through email. And
Sure,
now
sure.
I call upon Subhashri to propose the formal vote of thanks.
Yes.
Our chief guest threw a light on the concepts of nonlinear optical using SR and RSR method, and he have given a great explanation of SR method and growing of crystals, experimental setup, harvesting, and cutting of crystals, pattern of crystal, etc. for the benefit of the audience. I hope audience get benefited. It gives me a great pleasure to deliver the oath of thanks for this webinar to the dignitaries assembled here. I would like to thank our chief guest, Dr. Muthusendal Pandian sir, who honored this webinar with his informative thought, which made us to show inspirational interest on research. Thank you, sir. Now I hand over
Thank you very much.
to Mr. Venkatramakrishnan for the second technical session.
Hi everyone, myself V. Venkatramakrishnan, and I am proudly overjoyed to welcome our guest Dr. Israel, Associate Professor in American College. He completed his doctorate under Madurai Kamaraj University. He has 20 years of teaching experience, and in American College he is teaching for 12 years. He is well known for his research on X-ray crystallography, rearrangement of charge density, and so on. He is a member in Indian Crystallographic Association. He is specialized in teaching solid-state physics and quantum mechanics. He has published 17 international papers and 3 national papers. He was guiding 2 students for their researches. He was awarded 3 R&D fellowships and also awarded UGC Major Research by American College. Addition to it, he has an working experience as NCC Division Officer and as FTP substitute. Now, I request him to take over the session.
Good morning, everybody. It is my pleasure to be here to present myself, some of my knowledge that I gathered from Madura College. Of course, I did my PhD from Madura College. I was the first student of Madura College Department of Physics under the guidance of Dr.R.Saravanan. And that was the time when the former principal, Dr. Sivakumar, actually helped me a lot, and I is there as an audience. And sir, it is my pleasure and my deep, I extend my deep gratitude to you for helping me on those days, formative years. I'm really thankful to you, sir. I'm really happy that you are there. And I thank every one of the organizing team. I thank the secretary of the college, and thank Dr. Suresh, one of the crystallographers of well-known kind, and of course the present principal there. And I thank the head of the department, Dr.R.Saravanan, and the organizing members, Prof.S.Sivaramakrishnan, Dr.Vishnu, Priya, and many more. It is my pleasure to be with you to share some of my knowledge on what I have learned from 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 my formative years. Let me share my presentation with you. Is there? Can you see the? I'm sorry. I would like to. Okay, let me share my screen here. Mm, yeah. Entire screen. Yeah. Okay. Now.
Sir, please click
Okay.
share screen and then share entire screen.
Which one?
Uh, uh, you please click share screen from the bottom and then
Yes.
share entire screen.
Okay, share screen. I'm sharing the screen now. You have blocked the screen. Actually, my browser has actually blocked the screen. Let me go to this. Browser blocked. Okay, so the thing is, well, I'm trying to share my screen here, and it will be ready. And before that, giving me my knowledge here, and my topic is based on how actually we can explore the properties of the crystal using X-ray diffraction method. Of course, people are using X-ray diffraction method for various purposes, and most of the papers actually I used to refer to basically is they use very simple. They go for X-ray diffraction, and they use it for a very simple explanation, and they use it for a very limited knowledge. And but that is not actually is meant for. Actually, the X-ray crystallography. X-ray crystallography can give you enormous amount of information, and the X-ray diffraction pattern actually can give you enormous amount of information, and that is what actually we are trying to find out. And let me just now I think okay, yeah, uh, this is actually the screen now. I'm able to share it right now. Okay. So the thing is, the exploring crystal properties using X-rays, and my name is Israel, and I'm from the Department of Physics, American College of Madurai. And the basis of the talk is whether we can actually investigate on materials for their properties from X-ray diffraction techniques. As I said, many of our friends actually don't use this X-ray diffraction pattern techniques, and the result of it very effectively. And it is my privilege here. I think I'm going to actually share some of my knowledge that I gathered here, and I'm going to give you how actually we can make use of this X-ray diffraction results for understanding the real property of the materials that we talk about. And if you look at the properties of a material, suppose when you look at the property of a material, first of all, what is actually a material? It is actually a physical substance It can be a metal, plastic, ceramic, glass, fibers, and so on. And if you look for any particular property, you can actually understand it from by putting that material into a proper experiment, and you can actually find out the result. You can actually take some readings, and then of course you can interpret it in many different ways, and then of course you can understand the property of the material. That is one way. The other way is looking at the material and handling those materials in the form of crystals and putting into X-ray diffraction technique and recording the X-ray diffraction pattern. You can very well predict, and you can actually say something on the property of the material. That is exactly what we are trying to say. Okay, that the materials can actually be shiny, strong, flexible. They can be heavy and light. Okay, as Dr. Mutsandip Pandian actually pointed out, you can actually go for, because the hardness test to understand whether it's hard or soft. But then you can actually predict that property from X-ray diffraction technique. That is what actually we are trying to focus on. And there are many other properties. Of course, the electrical conducting properties. Of course, electrical properties are there, and you can actually predict magnetic properties. You can predict optical properties, and so on. So that is what actually we are trying to concentrate on. Okay, so there are the material can be transparent, whether it can be translucent for a particular wavelength in electromagnetic spectrum or not. So those things can actually be understood, okay, right from the X-ray diffraction technique. So that is actually the basic. So can we scientifically investigate on the property of the material? As I said, yes. But then, of course, you have to have this material in the purest form. Only when the material is available in the purest form, without the defects or with minimum possible defects, you can actually use it for X-ray diffraction techniques, and you can understand the property. Otherwise, the contribution of the defect will actually deviate the original idea, the original property, and so on. So as Dr. Mutsan Pandal actually pointed out, there are many different ways. Of course, one of the things that actually he highlighted is actually the SR property, by which actually you can grow the crystal. So once you have a crystal, then of course you can put it into the X-ray diffraction technique, and you can understand the property. Now the thing is, suppose if you are not able to have a bigger crystals, as it was shown by Dr. Mutsan Pandal. Okay. So when you have a very small crystal, what will you do? Suppose if you are putting a small crystal into a Vickers harness test, and when it breaks down, when it becomes a powder or something, then it won't be useful at all. So the thing is, when you have a material in a very small size, okay, then of course you can actually use it for X-ray diffraction technique, and of course you can explore the properties. You can understand the properties. That is what actually we are trying to concentrate on. Okay? There are many crystals you can actually, which are man-made, and of course you can naturally is available. Some of the protein crystals that we see, the biology crystals, are very, very small. They are in micro size. Actually, you cannot put it into any kind of the instrument to understand its property. So the only way is actually you can actually predict the property from X-ray diffraction techniques. These are all some bulk crystals. It can be grown by SR method, as said by Dr. Sandil Pandian. Okay, but otherwise, okay, otherwise actually you can actually use a very small crystal, even very small crystals of micro size, millimeter size. Okay, for understanding the property of the material. Okay, I don't want to go into many details of these things. You know very well about what is actually a crystal. We have a basis, and we have a space lattice, which is what we call Bravais lattice system. And you can actually have a single atom or a couple of atoms, a combination of atoms, or you can actually have a big molecule. And of course, you can place it in one lattice point, and then of course you can construct the entire crystal. Okay, so you know the basics of this. We have fundamental building blocks like a brick for a building, construction of the building. You have to have a small unit cell, and by repeating that unit cell again and again over a distance, so in all through the space, of course, you can actually construct the crystal. Okay. There are some fundamental parameters that we need to have in order to understand the crystal using mathematical ideas, so using scientific ideas, you need to have some fundamental parameters. Of course, we use some you axis system, of course, the crystallographic axis system ABC, and the length of the units okay, in any direction is actually what we call ABC, which are basically what we call cell parameter or cell dimensions, and the angles, okay, angles between the axis, alpha, beta, gamma, and so on. Okay, so by classifying the angles, okay, angles of the fundamental unit cell, and by considering the equality or the unequal nature of the cell dimensions between the cell parameters, of course, you can actually classify them into several crystal systems. All these things actually you can find out from any basic crystallography textbooks, of course. Now the thing is, why we need X-rays? Okay, why can't we use some other radiation and electromagnetism? And why we need a crystal? Okay, we can't. Why we can't use any arbitrary material? Just take a material and put it into use, okay, and then of course you can understand the property. That is not possible. Okay, so you need to have X-rays. The reason why is, suppose when you consider a laboratory grating like this, okay, and then of course you can see the grating actually contains about 6,000 lines per centimeter, and in order to make this grating to diffract, okay, by any light, you need to have a wavelength, okay, that is actually about that is closer to the distance between any two lines in the grating. So actually it gives you it gives you a wavelength of something around a few thousand angstrom. Okay? So that is why actually we are using visible light spectrum from blue to red. Okay, and of course you can use it for diffraction grating. Okay, and similar to that, a crystal can also be considered as a grating. We call it as an atomic grating. Okay, so the thing is, there are several planes actually you can identify. We can identify them as planes with indices. Of course, those indices are actually what we call Miller indices. Okay, see, a simple structure like this, you can have a plane like this, and you can have a plane like this. You can actually, it's up to you where actually you have to draw the plane and which plane actually you want to understand. So the thing is, these planes can actually act as planes in gratings. Okay, where actually, of course, the crystal is actually an atomic grating. Okay, and if you consider the lines, okay, if you consider the planes, okay, then of course there are about 2 into 10 power 8 lines per centimeter. Okay, so you compare this with the laboratory grating here, and we have a grating here where the distances are basically very small, or they can say there are so many lines. Okay, there are 2 into 10 power 8 lines per centimeter. Okay, so if you calculate the wavelength that can actually pass through this line, okay, through the planes, which can fill this crystal, okay, then of course actually you have to have the wavelength of the wavelength of the light, okay, about a few angstrom unit. Okay, so if you look at the electromagnetic spectrum of a few angstrom unit, you get this window, only this window. The X-ray window is actually the only thing actually you can actually use, okay, because the X-ray, the wavelength of X-ray is about few angstrom. You can start from 0.5 to 10 angstrom. Actually, you can go up to 10 angstrom basically. But then, of course, the hard X-rays, okay, which are having a very high penetrating power, high intense X-rays, are the X-rays with the wavelength closer to 1 angstrom. Okay, it's about 0.5 to 1 point something. Okay, you can angstrom, so that can actually be chosen for understanding the crystals. So the thing is that will be comparable with the size of the size that is actually in between the planes of atomic grating. So that is why actually we have it. Otherwise, we cannot actually use other radiation, because that will simply pass through the thing, and it will not give you any diffraction. Okay, so for diffraction to take place, you have to have X-ray. You have to have electromagnetic radiation with a very few angstrom wavelength. So that is actually the thing. Then suppose if you look at the X-ray diffraction, of course you know about Bragg's law. Bragg's law gives you the diffraction condition, 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda. So that is actually the basic condition. Okay, and then Only when this condition is actually satisfied, then interference is actually taking place. Okay, so that is actually so once the interference takes place, then of course you get a pattern. Now, to get the pattern, okay, the experimental procedure that you will have to follow. Okay, first you select adequate crystal, okay, adequate crystal of a material that you want to study. Then, of course, that crystal should be very small. You cannot actually use a very bulk material that you can grow actually using SR method or not. But then you have to make it in a very small dimension, okay, about some 1 millimeter in millimeter. Right? Then, of course, you see to that there are no imperfections, no cracks, or no defects. So you can actually follow good methods like SR methods, as Dr. Muthusendu actually pointed out. So you select a crystal, and then of course you just put it into for the diffraction experiment. Okay, so the intense beam of X-rays will actually fall on this the crystal, and a regular pattern of reflections will actually take place because of the constructive interference. Okay, now these reflections can be recorded. Okay, either as a spot or as a pattern, as a graph. Okay, so the thing is actually you can collect the data sets of intensity. Okay, intensity of these reflections. Okay, normally you get 2 theta and intensity as the data set, and then of course you can actually get many different data sets. Suppose when the crystal is large, okay, when I say the crystal is large, when it is a macro crystal, even so the size of the unit cell itself is very long. Okay, it's about some tens of angstrom or hundreds of angstrom, like in protein crystals and so on. So once you have a very large unit cell, you have to collect different data sets, and then you have to put everything together using computational ideas. Then of course you'll have to deal with that. Okay, so you can actually process it with a computer, and then of course you can actually visualize it for any structure. Okay. Now the instrumentation that we use for X-ray diffraction, as you know, single crystal diffractometer and powder diffractometer. Some of the crystals cannot be grown in the crystalline form at room temperature limit. Okay, so the thing is, you will get those materials in the powder form, like ceramics and others. Okay, then you can actually use those powder, and of course you can put it over here, and of course you can actually get some pattern. And these are the patterns. Actually, these are the result of X-ray diffraction. This is what you get. Ultimately, this is what actually you will get, and nothing else. So in a diffraction pattern, this is actually a very old photograph of powder pattern, and this is actually a single crystal pattern. Very old photograph. Of course, this is when we record the intensity patterns in X-ray films. Now, this is actually the recent thing. Actually, you can actually see some CCD cameras right now. Actually, the collecting all the spots, and they form a pattern, and of course that can be interpreted using computers and so on. This is a typical powder pattern that you can get. You get a list of 2 theta and intensity, and then of course this is how actually this is how actually it's going to look like. Okay. Now all these peaks actually indicate the intensity arising from a particular HKL plane, a Miller plane, which actually obeyed the Bragg's law. Okay, so every single spot here, every single line here, okay, obeyed Bragg's law, and that is why it is there. Now this is what you will get. Okay, some peaks are high because the intensity is large, and some peaks are very small, okay, because the intensity is very small. Now we'll have to identify why these intensities are large and why these intensities are small. So that is actually our desire, and from then, of course, you can actually start predicting the property of the material. Now there are many different ways in which actually you can actually treat the data. First and foremost is the structure refinement. Now, when you know the structure, of course, you can directly go into inputting the known parameters, and you can find out the structure. Whether you will find out the structure that you are actually aiming for this particular material is good or is correct or not. Then otherwise, when it is an unknown structure, then of course you use several models. There are several model buildings are available, and with the help of those models, actually you can find out the structure, and which is what we call a phase problem. Of course, you can find out the structure, you can find out the atoms, the list of atoms which are present there, and then the molecular formula and so on. Okay. Now, once you get the structure, okay, then of course you have to find out the reliability, because when you are going for a property of understanding the property of a material, first of all, you will have to the information that you gathered out of the X-ray diffraction should be reliable or not. So we have several validation tools. Okay, I have listed some of the things over here. You can find out the details of this in several textbooks. I'm not going to those things because I'm going to concentrate only on the property right now. So these are some of the techniques, various tools available. Analysis of variance, differential electron density, IUCR check is there, normal probability plot is there, and then the reliability index. Reliability index will actually give you a weighted difference between the structure factor that you arrive at from the observation and the structure factor that you have predicted, okay, from a model that you have selected. Okay, so this is actually the difference electron density, but we'll talk about all these things later. Okay, now these are the results. This is actually how the result for an organic material, okay, looks like. Okay, so you after refinement, after the computational refinement, you'll be getting a three-dimensional view of the molecule that you have actually selected. The molecule. This is the molecule, okay, correspond to that material. The molecular formula, all other details here. Okay. Then of course the name actually that you can actually IUPAC name, and also all those things are there. Okay, you can actually select you can find out the name of this molecule, and in the refinement actually some of the parameters that you will actually get, okay, are the geometric parameters like the atoms. First of all, the type of atoms are there. What are the type of atoms are there? Okay, what are the type of atoms are there? Okay, and the atomic distances, what we call bond lengths, angles, and the positions of the atoms. Okay, and the isotropic displacement parameter. We call it isotropic displacement parameter or vibrational parameter. Or this will actually give you the amplitude of vibration of atoms. Okay, which are also useful, okay, in understanding several things. Okay, then the hydrogen bond symmetry, okay, is there. Is one of the things actually the people who are interested in structure refinement actually will look into. And this is actually the result summary where with the from 2 theta and intensity, from the X-ray diffraction experiment, okay, you convert that intensity into a structure factor, okay, which is nothing but the square root of this intensity. Okay, the square root of this intensity. Okay, so the intensity is actually structure factor squared. So when this is the square, so you take the square root of this. Okay, then of course you get the structure factor from that. Then once you get the structure factor, then of course you can transform it using Fourier transform techniques, and then of course you can convert that into charge density. Okay, so the thing is, from intensity, 2 theta intensity, you get structure factor, and from the structure refinement, these are the parameters that you will get. You'll get the type of the index, the planes which actually obeyed Bragg's law, and theta, the scattering angle, cell parameters, ABC, alpha, beta, gamma, atoms, their positions, bond lengths, angles, thermal vibration parameters. In the case of powder XRD, you'll get one information from full width half maximum, which is useful in determining the size of the particle. Then the thing is, once you convert this the structure factor, okay, by using Fourier transform techniques, okay, then of course you can go for charge density. So once you get charge density, then there are many other things that you can understand from the analysis. Okay, we'll talk about all these things in the coming session. Okay. Now this is the intensity. Okay, so after that, of course, you get the charge density, and then of course enormous information can be predicted. The property of the material can be predicted from the charge density. We'll talk about now. The analysis of X-ray diffraction results and understanding the property. You will have to analyze the X-ray diffraction result, not only record it. You have to analyze the X-ray diffraction result, every single detail of the parameter that you get out of the X-ray diffraction experiment. Then you will have to analyze it to understand the property. That is what we are trying to concentrate on. First and foremost, if it is a good crystal, then you get diffraction and pattern. If it is a bad crystal, like a glass, okay, which is not a crystal at all, okay, which is amorphous, then you don't get any diffraction. Okay, so that is not. It's not possible to get X-ray diffraction. You won't get any light diffraction. You won't get any X-ray diffraction or anything. Okay, so the moment you get a good diffraction pattern, okay, then you can say the crystal is actually very good. Crystallinity can be checked. So Dr. Senthil Pandian actually pointed out about the crystallinity and understanding crystallinity and so on, okay, by high angle diffraction thickness. Of course, this is actually okay. Now, look at the intensity from a particular HKL plate. Okay, now look at the intensity. If you find out, okay, some of the intensity is lost. Okay, when there is a reduction in intensity, then of course you can very well say absorption can actually could have taken place. Suppose when you say when the X-ray photon and its energy, okay, is comparable with the energy or the excitation energy of any of the atom in the system, then that atom will actually absorb this energy, okay, and it will go for some fluorescence effect. So the thing is, whether it is an X-ray fluorescent material, okay, then just look at the HKL plane, its intensity. If there is an absorption, you can say it's an X-ray fluorescent material. Then, of course, the extinction effect. Extinction effects are basically very hard, and this will actually reduce the intensity of the particular HKL by any HKL plane or throughout. Okay? If the material is a layered material, okay, so of course there are many ways actually you can understand the layering in material. Okay? Looking at the stacking arrangement of atoms in the system, you can actually find out. Okay, you can actually find out when there is a multiple internal reflections. Okay, then the extinction effects will actually reduce the intensity. Okay, so when there is a stacking fault, when there is a defect, okay, then this extinction effect is more. So crystallinity. We are talking about crystallinity. When there is a defect, when there is a stacking fault, okay, so that will actually give you that will actually reduce the intensity of the plane. Then there are doping effects. When the atoms are doped, okay, then when the atom is replacing an atom of the same type, then there is no problem. When the atom is replacing a smaller atom or a bigger atom, okay, then because of the lattice strain system, when you are pushing a small atom into the thing, then of course the lattice shrinks. When you are pushing a larger atom, okay, then of course the lattice has to accommodate the larger atom. So there is a strain, there is a bend to take place in a plane. Okay, and because of that, the reduction can actually. So you can actually check whether the doping actually has been done into the system, looking at the reduction in density, temperature effect. Okay, suppose if you are treating the crystals, okay, at elevated temperature or at the lower temperatures, okay, then because of the vibrations of the atoms, okay, you'll get a diffused scattering, okay, because we call that as a TDS effect. Okay, so because of this diffusion, okay, because of the diffusion in intensity, okay, there will be a reduction in intensity. So as I talked about because of the environment also, due to external pressure dependent XRD, when you go for pressure dependent XRD due to doping, you can actually find out the lattice strain. Okay. Similarly, the enhancement of intensity. Okay. Now another information that you get out of the Miller indices. Okay, just looking at the Miller indices, of course, the crystal property, some of the the lattice type actually you can understand. The 14 Bravais lattice is there, and the space group can be identified. Symmetry elements that are present there in the system can be identified. Apart from that, you can actually predict the additional phase in the system. Suppose if you are growing a crystal of titanium oxide, then this titanium oxide may grow with some mixed phases, okay, due to improper conditions, growing conditions. So the thing is, if you look, if I say an anatase phase of 91% is there, and other phases, okay, present there in the system, you can very well understand the presence of these phases, and not only that, the quantifying of this. See, 91.06, 6.93%, you can find out. Okay, you can find out these numbers. Okay, how much percentage is actually there? Okay, by looking at from the H-scale in Miller indices. Okay, see, these reflections are basically Bragg reflections of the anatase phase. This is actually for a Brookite phase, and this is actually for rutile phase. Okay, so there's, once you accommodate all these phases, then only actually the error bar in any powder refinement, we call that a Ritwald refinement. Okay, you'll get this, you'll get the small error. Okay, otherwise, if you leave out these two phases, and if you're looking at only the anatase phase, okay, I've grown this material and this material is pure. If you think like that, then of course this error will be large and the reliability indices will be large. So the thing is, the Miller indices can give you information whether the system that you have grown is mixed or not. Okay. So as I told you, the fill with half maxima, many people are actually aware of this. Okay. People are using it for several purposes. So one of the things is actually the nanoparticle understanding. Okay, you can use the grain size formula. And if somebody is interested, people can actually use the grain size software. Okay? You can actually deduce from X-ray diffraction powder data, and this software is actually available in IUCR crystallography software list. And this was actually developed and published by Dr.R.Saravanan, head of the department of the present Department of Physics in Madura College. One of the credit to Madura College. Okay, so you can actually use this, okay, for finding out the crystal size and so on. Now, the next one actually you get is the parameters. Okay, you look at the parameters and see. Okay, just by looking at the parameters, people just list it down and then just go ahead. Okay, but that is not the thing. Look at the parameter. Okay, whether there's any change in the parameter. If there is a change, you see to that why this change is actually taken place. Okay. From there, actually, you can understand the property of the crystal. Okay, suppose if you have doped something, or deliberately, or something actually doped, okay, undesirably, okay, then of course you can actually very well find out. Okay, so see, this is actually the normal lattice, pure lattice. Okay, so when there is a doping of smaller atom, bigger atom. Okay, when there is a multiple, when there is intermediate doping. Okay, when there is intermediate doping, then of course then that's a problem. Okay. So when there's a small change, when there's a doping, okay, then there will be a change. There will be a strain in the lattice. This strain in the lattice is continuous throughout the direction of the lattice. Okay, and of course it will reduce or expand the size of the unit cell. So you can very well say doping is there. You can actually, you'll have to analyze it. Okay, whether the doping is in place of in place of any atom, or whether it is an extra doping, or whether it is an intermediate doping, and so on. Okay. So similarly, you can actually find out temperature effect. Okay. Some of the atoms may vibrate more. Okay, in a molecule, okay, one atom may vibrate more. Okay. There is a material called scatter. I'm not going to deal with those things here. Okay. But in those materials, okay, the one particular atom will actually vibrate more. Okay, even at same temperature. Okay, the vibration will be more because of the arrangement of atoms, because of the bonds connected to it. Okay. So the thing is, you can actually find out the temperature. Suppose when you are increasing the temperature of the material itself, and you are recording the X-ray pattern. Okay, you can actually see which atom is actually vibrating more. So which is actually vibrating more? So that is the atom which will go for breaking of the bond very easily. Okay, when the system is actually going from a phase transition from one Bravais lattice system to another lattice system. Okay, so suppose when the system is going from a cubic, okay, to some other system, okay, then one atom will be responsible initially. Then of course the other atoms will participate. You can in fact actually find out which atom is actually the reason why the physical transition is actually taking place. So pressure effect, when there is a pressure, when there is a more when you are recording the X-ray diffraction pattern under pressure, okay, when there is a large pressure, then there will be shrinkage of cell dimensions. So when there is an increase in the pressure, of course there will be an increase in the cell dimensions. You can see that. Okay, as I said, phase transition. Polymorphism. Polymorphism is actually different molecular formula at same temperature limit. Okay, but that can happen because of different growth conditions. Okay, you can understand those things also. Now, when there is a mixed systems like doping, okay, like this, okay, so this is actually one component. This is actually a 5 component. So you're simply replacing the atoms A by B, C, D, E, and so on. Okay. So once you do that, okay, then the cell dimensions cell parameters will change. Okay, but then according to Vegard's law, but then for Vegard's law to be used, okay, the system should not go for a lattice chain. Okay, so when it is a BCC, this should be a BCC. Okay, but then it can accommodate other atoms also. Okay, so Vegard's law, you can employ the Vegard's law. Okay, like for uranium, when you are mixing uranium oxide and plutonium oxide. So you have a uranium oxide whose when you know the cell parameter of uranium oxide, and when you know the cell parameter of plutonium oxide, and if you have deliberately doped 7% of plutonium oxide with 93% of uranium oxide with all calculations, stoichiometric calculations, then you will get the result like this. You can check this value. You can check this value from the value you have derived from X-ray diffraction technique. So once that value and this value is correct, then you can say exactly 7% is there, or otherwise, suppose when there is a deviation, then you change accordingly. Okay, according to this number. Okay, then find out which percentage of plutonium oxide is actually gone into this uranium oxide. Similarly, for indium phosphide and indium arsenide, both are cubic systems. Okay, suppose when you are mixing for heterogeneous function, okay, people are using this material for making semiconductor devices. Okay, so you can tailor make a heterojunction, okay, of this particular material, okay, using this formula. Okay, so use this formula, you can tailor make a particular heterojunction. Okay, so you can see a simple cell parameter can give you all this understanding. Okay, another thing is, suppose if you are treating the material with respect to temperature, okay, you know that the materials will expand in elevated temperature and will shrink, okay, when the temperature is reduced. Okay, now what is actually the thermal expansion coefficient? Okay, so you know thermal expansion coefficient is different for different metals, okay, different materials. Okay, so it depends on the gradient of the cell parameter with respect to the temperature. You can find out, okay, cell parameter, the thermal expansion coefficient from cell parameter. You record cell parameter, you find out the cell parameter at different temperatures, you put a graph like this, and you can find out the slope. Use this formula, you can find out thermal expansion coefficient. Okay, so you treat them well. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, information from bond length and bond angle. Suppose when there is a small change in the bond length, okay, when there is a deviation in bond length, okay, why there is a deviation, okay, so any lattice strain could have happened, okay, or a particular type of bonding, okay, will actually affect, okay, the original bond length. So the thing is, remember, for ionic, for different type of bonding, ionic covalent, polar covalent, metallic van der Waals. Okay? So we talk about single bond, double bond. There is a sigma bond and pi bond also. Okay, all these different type of bondings can actually be understood from bond lengths. Just listing it is not going to give you any understanding. Okay, analyze it. Please analyze it. Okay, to understand what type of bonds are there, what type of bonding is actually there. See, for single bond, actually there will be a different wavelength, a different bond. For double bond, there will be a different bond. Okay, for ionic, there will be different. Okay, for covalent, it is going to be different. And not only that, lattice strain can be understood. Again, I said doping. So once there is a doping, automatically when the atom is smaller, then the bond gets shrink. Okay, then of course there will be a reduction in the bond length. Okay, when there's you can actually predict, you can actually confirm doping. You can actually confirm doping looking at the bond length, looking at the bond angles. Okay, okay. Now more to that, of course, we have John Teller distortion is available when there is a distortion, when there is a compression in the molecule, when there is an axial compression, we call there is a axial compression, axial elongation. So when any kind of a distortion takes place in the lattice due to any environment, due to a doping or anything, external effect, temperature, pressure, and so on, you can find out. Okay, you can find out. You can predict that, and you can actually correlate the John Teller distortion that can actually happen in a particular material with bond lengths and bond angles. So bond lengths and bond angles will give you information on John Teller distortion. Okay. Now, the next one is the strength of the material. So Dr. Mutsand Pandyan actually pointed out you need to go for Vickers hardness test or something, the laser threshold and all those tests. Okay. Look at the bond lengths, look at the bond angle. Okay, you can actually predict the strength of the material. Okay, there are some more parameters also. Okay. Now the thermal parameters. Okay, so thermal parameters are important. Okay, because looking at the thermal parameters, actually you can see okay, there are other technologies like the Raman spectra, IR spectra, and so on. Okay. Now some resources are interested in understanding the IR spectra, the crystal structure, NMR spectra, Raman spectra. They put everything done for publication and so on. Now, when you do that, please look at the thermal parameters and try to correlate with which atom is actually responsible for what kind of vibrations. So suppose when you say there is a peak here, okay, now why this peak arises here, okay, and what atom or which part of the molecule is actually responsible for this particular peak and so on. So the thing is, you can actually correlate the structure information and the spectral information. Okay, so the X-ray diffraction parameter, thermal parameters, gives you more information on the vibrational spectra also. So when you want to know the vibrational spectra, to understand the vibrational spectra, look for these parameters. You guys saw all these thermal parameters. Okay. Then the next one is actually the most important thing. Basically, we are into this kind of research on charge density. Now, the charge density is like this. You have atoms. The atomic structure is atoms and electrons are there. The electrons, okay, the information that you get, okay, in the real lattice, okay, when it is Fourier transform, you get the reciprocal lattice information. This reciprocal lattice information, okay, is actually what we call intensity pattern. So intensity pattern is X-ray diffraction result. So you get X-ray diffraction result, you get intensity. Okay, so don't just leave the intensity. Treat that with the Fourier transform. Okay, so once you do the inverse Fourier transform of the structure factor, you get charge density. Okay, there are many methods available. Please go through all this method in the textbook, and of course you can find out the most reliable method. Okay, we use the maximum entropy method and the multiple models. Okay, the Fourier methods are very old methods, and there are other methods called superflip models and so on. Okay, so the thing is, you can actually connect the real space information and reciprocal space information. Okay, so these are the things actually I'm going to talk about. Okay, I'm not going to. Now, looking at the charge density. Okay, now, okay, so let me say you have intensity okay, to theta and intensity. From intensity, you have structure factor. From structure factor, you Fourier transform it, directly get the charge density in a unit cell. So once you get the unit cell, when charge density, you plot it, okay, in any form, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, okay, like this and so on. Okay. Then of course you see that charge density you interpret. Okay. For example, suppose when you look at this letter, okay, so this C atom, carbon atom is replaced by oxygen atom. Okay, so you see the difference. Okay. So the small replacement of a carbon atom by an oxygen atom, okay, actually makes an enormous change in the charge density environment. This is actually what we call environment. So this is the original charge density. This is actually the change. Okay. Now, suppose when you say, "Sir, I'm not able to interpret this like you." Okay. Don't worry. You look at the doctors that they interpret all those scans, all those CT scan and other things. They know what it is. Okay. So once you get into know this thing, you will know what it is. So please try to understand it. Okay. So you cannot directly understand, interpret it. Okay, but you need to understand it first. Then of course you get interpret. Okay. Now, like a doctor. Okay, you become a, then you will eventually become a doctor in physics. Okay. So this is actually a 2-dimensional charge density where you have 2 different atoms. Okay. See, these are yellow atoms are different and blue atoms are different. Their charge distribution is different. Okay. Okay. Now, the thing is, from the charge density distribution, you can actually predict the atoms and their shape. Now, this is how gallium atom will look like in gallium fluoride. So this is the fluorine, but the same fluorine, okay, here looks like looks in a different way, okay, in a different shape when it is bonding with the vanadium. This is actually a vanadium fluoride. Okay, so this vanadium looks like a different kind of a starfish kind of a thing, and then a fluoride. Okay, so we have a spherical, almost spherical gallium atom and almost spherical fluorine atom, but then they are different. Okay. So the thing is, not all atoms are spherical. Look at this. Okay. They are not spherical. Okay. They are not spherical. See, they are not spherical. They are not exactly spherical. When you put into other atoms and their environment, they change. Okay. Now you look at this OH bond here. This is actually an NH bond here. Okay. Now, the thing is, once you get the charge density, you can actually predict the bond path. This is not a straight line. So, bond length or the bond path, okay, it's not a straight line that connects a hydrogen atom and the energy. It is actually a bent one. Okay. So, once you know charge density, you will actually know that this bond length or the bond path is bent. You have to travel from hydrogen atom to nitrogen atom. Okay. So oxygen atom, okay, and most of the people, chemistry people, will actually understand that this oxygen is actually having some lone pair charges. Okay, nitrogen is also having some lone pair charges. Okay, so all these things can be understood from charge density. Okay, now another thing. Okay, now again I'm going into the temperature effect and the doping effect. Okay, suppose when you have a stannous oxide and when you are doping with manganese. Okay, and we found that there's a peculiar magnetic property in this particular material. We published it. Okay, so when a stannous atom, okay, when a stannous atom is replaced by manganese atom, okay, see the complete charge environment actually changes. Okay, so it changes. Now it is detaching. Okay, now it is detaching. Now it is detaching. Completely different. Okay, so this is actually a step-by-step progress of detachment of this stannous atom from oxygen. Okay, so losing some of its strength. Okay, some of its bonding properties. Okay, due to doping. This is actually a more doping. Okay, 3%, 5%, 7%, 9%, whatever. Okay, so 1%, 3%, 5%, 7%, and 9%. So once this is actually 1%, this is actually pure form. This is actually 9%. Okay, so when you replace 9% of stannous atom with the manganese atom, then the manganese atom detaches. So looking at the charge density picture, you can say doping has actually taken place at the place of stannous atom. Okay, and the temperature. Okay. Suppose this is actually gallium phosphide at room temperature. Okay, so at 200 temperature there will be a accumulation of charge. See, when the temperature is higher, okay, the charges will spread out. When the temperature is lower, they'll try to come back to this atomic position. Okay? So there will be a change in the this is actually hydrogen atom. This is actually the size of the hydrogen atom in CH. Okay. Now, from this atom, okay, looking at the size of the atom, actually, you draw a surface, okay, that encompass or enclose the particular. Okay, then you go into the atom and of course you integrate the charges. Okay, you integrate the charges. Okay, integrate the charges. You can actually find out. Okay, see here in gallium fluoride for gallium. Okay, you can actually find out the core charges. You can actually find out the valence charges. For fluorine atom, this is the core charges, the valence charges, and so on.
Sir,
Once
sorry
you
for
get this,
intervening, sir.
the quantifying.
Israel, sir, sorry for intervening. Sir, sorry for intervening, sir. You can take another 5 minutes, sir. Sorry for the inconvenience. There is some technical glitches, and now we shall proceed with the next session.
There are some technical issues. Mm. Hello.
Israel, sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I'm here right now.
Okay.
Shall I? Yeah.
Sir, can we wind up, sir?
Yes. Shall I conclude this?
Yes, please, sir. Yes, please, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
please. Yeah. Okay. Let me conclude this. Yeah. Okay. So So the thing is, once you get the information from charge density, I think uh, you can actually use it for many different understanding. Okay, you can actually understand different types of bonding from charge density. There are many different type of bonding. Okay, ionic, covalent, and metallic. Strong correlation. Okay, bonding is there. Okay, and there are other derivatives. Okay, there are other derivatives that actually can find out. Okay, one is actually the Laplacian. Okay, which is what we call true representation of the chemistry in the molecule, which can actually identify the sigma bonding and pi bonding. Okay, and a lot more. Okay, of course, there are many ways by which actually you can understand the property of a material. Okay, remember, X-ray information can give you information on whether a material is an electric material or a magnetic material. Okay, so you can actually you look at the diamagnetic property, paramagnetic property, superparamagnetic property, ferromagnetic property, antiferromagnetic property, and so on. Not only that, of course, you can actually look into some electrical conducting property, okay, of the material. Okay, whether it's an insulator, conductor, semiconductor, okay, and so on. Okay, you can actually understand all these things when there's a transition, okay, from insulator to conducting, okay, transition. Okay, you can always understand all these things using charge density. Okay, there are many other properties you can understand which can otherwise be calculated using quantum mechanics. Okay, you can actually one thing. This is the last thing that I would like to say. Okay, I would like. De Kittel used to say in his book, okay, X-ray can see the electrons. X-ray sees the electrons. Okay, so you can actually locate the electrons. You can actually locate the lone pairs of oxygen. Okay, the lone pairs of oxygen. You can actually locate the position of the nodes. Okay, so this is actually the electron localization function. Okay, this is actually the K cell, L cell, the orbitals. Okay, basically, first one, second one, third one, the fourth one, fifth one, and sixth one. Okay, what are the orbitals available? Where they are positioned. Okay, all those things can be seen using the charge density from X-ray. Okay, so as predicted by, of course, as explained by Kittel. Okay, of course, you can do all these things. So what I would like to say here is you can actually predict almost all properties. Okay, so optical property, magnetic property, the electrical property, the chemical property, okay, hard and mechanical property, and all those things, okay, can be understood, okay, from X-ray diffractions. What you just don't treat it as it is. The wealth of information is available, okay, in X-ray diffraction information, okay, and of course you can use it for many different analyses. Thank you so much. I think let me conclude my 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 talk here. You can contact me from this using this email, okay, and you can actually see into my website israelsamuel.weebly.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. All the hearts in the chat boxes are jumping like anything with the joy of happiness at your presentation, sir. Sir, just
Thank you so much.
due to time constraints, I just wanted to ask you just two questions that were posted by in the comment boxes. First is how to check the purity of the samples before taking XRT.
Well, actually, you will have to look into the mostly we look at the surface. Okay, so when the surface is good, it's smooth, and there is a what do you call the clear when it is very clear and it is transparent. Okay, that itself actually gives you an idea of the purity of the crystal. So, but then it is not possible to predict the purity just by looking at it. Even if it is very pure crystal, there may be some doping, there may be some extra component that actually is unwantedly come into the system. Okay? We cannot predict that. Once you
and
go for
maybe the next
X-ray
session would answer their questions, sir, checking on NMR and
yes,
such things.
Yes, true. Thank you
the
so
next
much.
thing is how can we find the thermal expansion coefficient of the orthorhombic crystal structure while this A, B, and C are different?
Yeah, of course, when the entire system is different, I think you'll have to plot the graph between ABC different. Okay, you have to see the gradient of A with respect to temperature, gradient of B with respect to temperature, and C with respect to temperature. Then you have to take the slope of it. Okay, then you actually, the thermal expansion is different in different axes. So in axis A axis, it may expand differently because of the different atomic arrangement. B axis it is different, C axis it is different. So it is in a scientific way, you should not say the thermal expansion of a material. The thermal expansion is different in different directions. So you'll have to find out in different directions. So that will give you the scientific answer of thermal expansion coefficient of a material.
Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Thank you so much. Sorry
Now
for
I
technical
That's okay,
difficulties
sir.
you
Technical
faced.
glitches always happen, sir. Thank you. That's okay.
Okay.
And now I request Mr. Venkatramakrishnan to propose the formal vote of thanks, sir.
A big thank you to Dr. S.Suresh for making efforts under the topic exploring crystals using X-rays. The way you start with is very awful. Beginning from basics and saying about materials and explaining about their properties and also explanation of crystals. And with you, we viewers are slowly able to explore the crystals, sir. I personally rewind my college days when you start telling about Miller indices, and all photographs in PowerPoint presentation slides make us to much more attention through your webinar session. And now we are all inspired by your great words, and we had a great session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for all. I thank
Thank you,
the
sir.
authorities for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
And now I hand over the third session to Mr. S. Venkatasubramanian to take over. Thank you.
I hereby welcome Dr. R. Ranjit Kumar, Assistant Professor in Department of Organic Chemistry in the School of Chemistry of Madurai Kamaraj University. He has 9 years of teaching experience and 16 years research experience. He is specialized in organic chemistry and NMR spectroscopy. He has guided 10 students. One student has completed a thesis and currently 6 students are working under his guidance. He has published more than 100 publications in international journals. His average impact factor is 2.819 and H index is 18. He has completed 2 major research projects. He is a notable reviewer in ACS, RFC, Elsewhere, Taylor and Francis, etc. Madurai Kamaraj University honored him with the Citation Award for his remarkable research contribution. He got fellowship from DST Young Scientists and CNRS postdoctorate. Now I heartily welcome Dr. Ranjit Kumar to take the seminar on structural characterization using NMR spectroscopy.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your nice introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this webinar, and especially Dr. Vishnu Priya for inviting me to deliver this lecture. I would like to thank Dr.J.Suresh for the principal of Madura College for inviting me, and the HOD of the physics department, Madura College. So now let me share the screen. Is it okay? Are you able to see the slide? Anybody?
Yes, sir. I can proceed.
Hello?
Yeah, it is. It's clear, sir. We can proceed.
Yeah, okay. Fine. So probably I'm the odd man out. Until now, you had a very good bombardment of X-ray on you. Mine is a very weak frequency, the radio frequency, which is well back, 10 power 8 nanometers. Right. So, and one more thing, I advise you to have a working lunch. So it's time, it's almost 1 o'clock. So you can simultaneously have your lunch and try to concentrate on the lecture. I'll try to make it a little bit interesting by giving some problems to solve later on. Now, structural characterization using NMR spectroscopy. So that's the title of my lecture. Now, before going to the lecture, you can see the number of Nobel laureates who have been awarded Nobel Prize for works related to NMR right from 1943 to 2003. And the most groundbreaking research was by Felix Bloch and Edward Purcell in 1952. And then later on, the invention of the two-dimensional NMR by Richard Ernst in 1991. And next, the application to biological systems was discovered by Kurt Woodrich in 2002, where he characterized the structure of proteins. And then later on in 2003, uh, two Nobel laureates, the Paul C. Lauterbur and Peter Mansfield, got the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine in 2003 for the MRI, in which the concepts of MRI and NMR is almost similar. So this is the history of the NMR, how it evolved to the present day situation. Now, when you wonder why you need to make new compounds again and again, like in our laboratory or many scientists in the world, they tend to make new compounds and characterize them. So what is the need? So there are several aspects, so like you try to invent new drugs, you try to isolate from natural resources, and you identify it has some biological activities, and you need to characterize it. So once you have something new, how to approach it? You cannot go to the NMR or for that matter, so any spectroscopic technique, and directly you can't characterize, or it is not advisable directly to go to spectroscopic characterization. First of all, you need to know what it is or what it has. So first, initially, you need to know what are the composition of the new compound or new material, whatever it is. So for that, the GCMS or the LCMS will help you to generate the molecular formula, and you will know the mass of the unknown compound. Elemental analysis, similarly, it will give you the composition of the compound, like how much percentage of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, etc. are present. And from that, you can generate the empirical formula, and from there, you can know the molecular formula once you know the mass. And HR mass ultimately will give you the exact mass of the compound. So once you know all these aspects, then you go for the spectral characterization. So in the spectral characterization, you can use any of the multiple techniques. So for example, if you take IR, which deals with the vibration of bonds. So the IR vibration, when it matches with the vibration of bonds. So there is absorption taking place, and you will have some informations like you will know the functional groups present in the compound using IR spectroscopy. UV will give you, it deals with the electronic excitations, and it may not help you a lot to exactly characterize the structure, but you will have certain informations like, you can see whether you have aromaticity, aromatic rings in the compound, and so on. And ultimately, in NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance, which deals with the nuclear spin of any atom. So this will give you the unambiguous structure of the compound. You can illustrate the structure unambiguously. So it will give the complete structure, and in fact, you can do also the stereochemistry. And the morning lecture, you would have got a lot of information about the X-ray. So in our case, once you have the new compound, and if you are lucky enough to grow single crystal of the compounds, then you can be able to see the picture, see the three-dimensional picture of the compound. And this is the only method where you can, you'll be able to give the absolute configuration of the chiral center. So other methods you can't do it. So this is how the gradual or the systematic analysis of any new compound should be done. Right. This is a very basic compound, and you are all, well versed about this compound, the paracetamol. So imagine that you make this compound in the laboratory, and you have identified the molecular formula, and you have identified the molecular weight and everything you know. And now you go for the spectroscopic technique. I have taken the IR, I've taken the NMR, the proton, and I have taken the carbon NMR. Now, how to approach? How to know whether the compound that I have made in the lab is correspond, and how to characterize using this spectral technique. Number one. Next, the famous compound, a favorite of President Trump, I think so, right? The hydroxychloroquine. Now here again, I know the molecular formula. I found out. I got the molecular weight. Yes, I've taken the H1NMR and I've taken the carbon NMR, and everything is fine. But how to assign it, or how to know whether it exactly matches, or how do I know that I have synthesized hydroxychloroquine? Yes, by this lecture end, I suppose you will be knowing all these things. Right. Now, NMR. What do you mean by NMR? So a very short theory, how you get signals in NMR spectroscopy. Right. So NMR is a phenomenon which occurs when the nuclei of certain atoms are immersed in a static, strong magnetic field, which is denoted as B0, and you exposed to a secondary oscillating magnetic field, the radio frequency. Now, so nuclei of certain atoms, I say. So certain atoms in the sense the atoms wherein the nuclei has a spin value or a spin angular momentum. Like, what do you mean by a spin? Spin angular momentum. So it's a certain nuclei of, some atoms have a property called spin, and it's a subatomic, it's a fundamental property of any subatomic particle. And not all the atoms will exhibit spin. There are certain restrictions. And for example, if you have the number of neutrons and number of protons are both even, then those nucleus will not have spin value. The I value will be 0, and this nucleus will not be NMR active. So because it doesn't possess any nuclear spin, angular momentum. And the second one is the number of neutrons plus the number of protons is odd. Then such nuclei will have the integer, half integer strings, like proton, carbon, nitrogen, N15, F19, silicon 29, and P31, which are the most common nucleus for organic chemistry. All these nuclei have I value as half. And B11, sodium 23, these nuclei have 3 by 2, and the O17, aluminum, are much less common atoms, they have I value of 5 by 2. And the third case is like, when you have a number of neutrons and the number of protons both are odd. And these nucleus will have whole number of, the integers, like 1, 2, 3, etc. Like deuterium, N14, these nuclei will have I value 1. And similarly, 2, 3, etc. So certain nuclei have the spin angular momentum, right? So what is the consequence? So what happens when it has spin angular momentum to the nuclei? So any charged species, when it is spinning, it exhibits magnetic field. So like our Earth spinning on its own axis and exhibiting magnetic field. Or you can say it behaves as a tiny magnet, like a proton, carbon, 13, whatever the nuclei spins. So it exhibits, or it is a tiny magnet. And the magnetic moment mu is given by gamma I h. So gamma is the gyromantic ratio, which is constant for certain nuclei. I is the spin value and h is the Planck's constant. You can see all the things are constant here. And when you have I is equal to 0, those nuclei will not have magnetic momentum. Okay. So certain nuclei have spin angular momentum, and because of that, you have the magnetic moment. And so what? When these spinning bodies or spinning nuclei, when they are immersed in an external magnetic field, there is something happening. Or you can say, like, a strong magnetic field B0. So when you place such nuclei, such spinning nuclei, such a tiny magnet in an external magnetic field of higher field strength, then the strong magnetic field B0 will tend to align that nuclei with itself. That is the first point. And the second one, that spinning of that nuclei will cause that magnetic movement of that nuclei to wobble. It's like, when a spinning top is, spinning in the ground, and when it is about to fall due to the gravitational pull, it makes a rotation. So that rotation is nothing but the Larmor frequency or the precessional frequency. So then each and every nuclei will, you expect that, for example, if you have a 300 megahertz of B0, and when you place a nuclei in a 300 megahertz instrument, you expect that nuclei to precess in 300 megahertz. So that is the Larmor frequency, but it is not exactly precessing in that. I will come to that later. But you expect that precessional frequency to be around 300 megahertz. So here, that frequency, that Larmor frequency is given by gamma B0 by 2 pi. So gamma is nothing but, again, the gyrometric ratio. B0 is the field strength of the external magnetic field divided by 2 pi. So remember, everything is constant except B0. Yes. Now, so certain nuclei spins. So because of that spin, it exhibits a magnetic moment. And when you place those nuclei in external magnetic field, it precesses. So number three. And number four, it not only precesses, but it takes certain number of quantized energy levels depending on the I value. So which is given by 2i plus 1. So the number of orientations of the precessing spin is given by 2i plus 1. So for example, if you take a spin half nuclei, it can take two different orientations, plus half and the minus half. Or you can say a ground state and the excited state. So plus half will be the ground state and minus half will be the excited state. Or you can say the alpha and beta state. And when you have I value 1, then those nuclei will take three different orientations, minus half, plus, 0 and plus half, and 5 by 3 by 2, and that many number of orientations based on the I value. And remember, in any occasion, the allowed transition are across unit difference. That is only one is allowed, right? So certain nuclei has spin angular momentum. Because of that, it exhibits magnetic moment. And when you place those nuclei in external magnetic field, it precesses and it takes that many number of certain number of quantized energy levels. Right. Now, when you take spin half nuclei, which is very much important for any organic chemistry or structural characterization of any organic compound, proton, carbon, F19, etc. Now, degenerate B0, you have all the spin paired and there is no magnetic moment. And once you place those nuclei in an external magnetic field, it takes two different orientations, that is plus half and minus half. And plus half is the state where it is aligning with the external magnetic field, and minus half is the state where it opposes the external magnetic field. And the energy difference between these two is given nothing but the gamma V0 by 2 pi. That is the crystal frequency. So you need to have a large energy gap for a good well resolved NMR. Now, again, if you see here, in order to increase the energy gap, there is nothing you can do just to increase the B0. So it means that when you record NMR in 100 megahertz, it will be low resolution, and when compared to the when you record any NMR in a 400 megahertz or a 500 megahertz. So it is advisable to do in a higher magnification, but the cost is also a disadvantage when you go to higher megahertz, field strength NMR. And you can see the gyrometric ratio for proton is 267.513, and when you compare the carbon, it is almost 1/4. Right. Now that is for one spin. Now when you have lot of spins, or you can say you have some 10 milligram of some new compound, and you are trying to record NMR, there will be millions of protons, carbons, and the NMR active nucleus. Now when you place such nuclei in B0, when you have B0 in degenerate state, B0 is 0, you don't have any external magnetic field, all the orientations will be randomly poised, and you will have net magnetic moment 0. But once you place such nuclei in an external magnetic field of B0 of higher magnetic field strength, then you expect the orientation to be different. That is, you can expect more number of nuclei in the ground state when compared to the excited state, the alpha state when compared to the beta state. Remember, the energy gap is given by gamma B0 by 2 pi. Right. Now, we expect that, but that is not the case. So that is where the Boltzmann distribution comes into place. It says that at thermal equilibrium, the Boltzmann distribution determines the population in various energy levels. So it says that the population is almost equal in the two states with little bit excess in the ground state. So that is the Boltzmann equilibrium. And the ratio is given by e power minus delta E by kT. So this is the equation which determines the population difference. So when you have more population, when you have more energy gap between the two energy, the levels, you have more number of spins in the ground state. So in that situation, you will have good resolution in the NMR. But to achieve that, you need to have more B0, high B0, or you can reduce the temperature as per the Boltzmann excess. So now once you attain the Boltzmann distribution, then you can do something to, I just forgot to say you. In when you have 2 million nuclei, even in 300 megahertz instrument, the population will be very small. difference between the alpha and beta is almost same, just with the 48 excess nuclei in the ground state. So this NMR, how will you get the signal? Yes. Now, somehow you have to, disturb the population between the ground state and the excited state. So the frequency to make this excitation lies in the radio frequency region. That is, it is done by passing a radio frequency perpendicular to the B0. So once you do that, what happens? The spins in the ground state, when the crystal frequency of the individual nuclei, when it matches with the radio frequency, it absorbs energy and it flips to the excited state. And in excited state, it can't stay for long, and it will come down, emitting the absorbed energy, and that is recorded as a signal. And as I told you, it cannot stay in the excited state with these two relaxation process. It comes back emitting the uh, energy. And the signal is acquisition is done in two different ways, and one is the continuous way, which is not useful now. It is very old technique where it's like your FM radio. So when you just tune from one end to another end, wherever you have matching frequencies, you will hear the songs or any noise. Similarly, here the magnetic field strength is fixed, and the radio frequency is gradually increased from a lower to a higher frequency, so that whenever you have a matching of your spin with the spin crystal frequency with the the radio frequency, you get the signal. And that is it has a lot of disadvantage. You need a lot of compounds, and it will take around 20 minutes or to 30 minutes to record a proton NMR, and carbon, it's very difficult to do, and there are lots of disadvantages. So that is almost outdated and it's not used nowadays. But you have the pulse technique where you have the radio frequency. The excitation is given through short burst of pulses, so that once you give a short burst of pulse, all the nucleus will be excited, and based on the relaxation time, you have different relaxation time for different kinds of nuclei, and you record the free induction decay, which is otherwise called the time domain spectra, and which is Fourier transformed to your frequency domain spectra, and you will get the signal. So this is a small introduction or the theory of how you get the signal in NMR. And instrumentation, as you see, the classical method, it's nowadays nowhere used. And this is the 300 megahertz instrument which we have in our School of Chemistry. And now we have been, sanctioned for 400 megahertz by DST FIST, which will be installed very soon. And the latest news is that even 1.2 gigahertz NMR has been developed by Bruker. Now, you have certain important concepts in NMR for structural illustration, so which is very much important to know to before characterization. I will concentrate on proton and carbon now. So first one is the number of signals. So when you are given a compound, you need to identify how many number of signals you will get in proton and carbon. So for that, you need to know that in proton, uh, protons in different chemical environment will give different signals. So once you have the structure of the compound, once you are able to identify protons in different chemical environment, so that many number of signals you will get in the proton. Carbon, it's relatively easy because once you count the number of number of carbon signals in the spectra, you can say that many number of carbon signals are present in the compound. So this is the number of signals. Number two is the position of the signal. So where it appears. So how many it appears, it depends on the chemical environment. Where it appears, that is determined by the electron revolving around the nucleus. So the electrons always tends to shield the nuclei. So the exact B0 felt by any nuclei is not the exact value, but it is dependent on the electron cloud. So which we will discuss later on. So the position of the signal will give you where the signal appears. The number three is another important concept, the spin-spin coupling. So once you have any compound, you can't expect that the proton to give one signal for each kind of proton. So it tends to split based on the number of neighboring protons or neighboring spin, I can say. So in proton NMR, you have geminal, vicinal, and long range couplings. Whereas in C13, it is a proton decoupled spectra, and you need not worry about any splitting pattern. And number four is the intensity of the signal, which will give you some information about the number of protons present in the compound. So this it will exactly give the ratio of the protons present in the compound, and along with the molecular formula, it will be very useful so that you can know the number of protons present in the compound. And carbon 13, it's not that much useful because the proton decoupling is taken place. I mean, you do the proton decoupling, so the intensity will not give you any information. So we'll see one by one. So how to approach if a compound, I mean, if any compound is given. Right. Number one is the predicting the number of signals. So we'll start from very basic, the ethanol. So if you see here, I need to see how many number of different kinds of protons are there in different chemical environment. So I can see that this CH3, all the three protons, they are in one environment. This is CH2. So in organic chemistry, just if you put a line, it says that you have two H here, it's a CH2. So CH3, CH2, and OH. So there are three different kinds of protons. So you can expect three different signal in proton NMR. And in carbon, you have the methyl carbon and the CH2 carbon. So you can expect two. So wherever, I mean, the red will be the proton and the blue will be the carbon. Right. The next one. Again, if you see here, it's a nitro compound. So CH3, CH2, CH2. So this CH3 is in one chemical environment, the CH2, and the next CH2, which is attached to nitro. So there are three different kinds of protons. So three signals. And carbon, again, CH3, CH2, and CH2. There are three carbons. So three signals in the carbon NMR. And next one, again, if you see here, CH3, this is a carbonyl group. It doesn't have any H. So CH3 1, the CH2 2, and the CH3 3. So we get three proton signals. And in carbon NMR, you will have one more signal because of this CO. So you will have 3 and 4. Next, a chloro compound. Again, CH3, this is one kind of proton, and this CH2, this is another kind of proton. So you will get two signals, and in fact, one more signal because of this carbon will be there. So the carbonyl carbon, so you will get 2 and 3. Now, you have a tertiary butyl group. So here, you can see that you have a methyl group here, one, the CH2, and you have three different, three methyl groups here, T-butyl. So you can expect three different signals for these three kinds of methyl group. You can say that the CH3 is near to Cl and the CH3 is near to CH3, but that is not the case because here you have the CC bond rotation, very fast rotation, so that these three protons, the methyl protons will be identical, and all these three will be giving only one signal. So you will have one CH here, 2, and all these three giving one signal, 3, and in fact you have the ipso carbon here giving 4 carbon signals. So wherever you have, you try to find out the protons in different chemical environment, and that means the number of signals you will get in the proton and also in the carbon. The next example here, it's a symmetrical compound. Remember, CH2, CH2, CH2. You have three CH2s, and you can expect three different signals in the proton NMR. But that's not the case. Because of the symmetry, you will get only two signals. In fact, in proton and also in the carbon. So generally, you can say that the symmetry will reduce the number of signals in the compound. In the spectra. And similarly here, again, you have a symmetry here. It's an isopropyl group. These two methyl groups are same, and this CH is different. So you will get two signals in the proton, and the carbonyl signal will be added in the carbon. So it will be three signal in the carbon NMR. So the symmetry will reduce the number of signals. That is the next point here. And then benzene. In benzene, you have 6 carbons and 6 protons, and so that you can expect 6. It's a very elementary example. But remember, wherever you have CN axis of symmetry, those compounds will give only one signal in proton and carbon. So you have a C6 symmetry here. So you will get only one signal. For that matter, any compound which has any CN axis of symmetry, you will get only one signal. Cyclohexane, yes, you will get only one signal. And you know that the conformation of cyclohexane is a char form, is more stable, and you have axial and equatorial protons. At room temperature, you will have a very fast flipping, so that both the axial and equatorial are same, and you will get only one signal. But when you record the NMR of cyclohexane at minus 90 degree, you get two signals, one because of all the axial protons and the other because of all the equatorial protons. When you take the aromatic ring systems, that is monosubstituted aromatic ring systems, as shown here. Here the X is any substituent, any monosubstituent, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of protons. And you can expect 5 different, but it won't give 5 different signals. The both the ortho protons with respect to the X or the substituent, both will be same and will give one signal, and the meta or two meta protons will give one signal, and para will give another signal. So any monosubstituted phenyl ring will give you 1, 2, 3 signals in the proton NMR, whereas carbon you will have one more because of that ipso carbon here, the quaternary carbon. So you'll get 1, 2, 3, 4 signals in the carbon NMR. So, for example, when you take toluene, you have one methyl group here. So this is one, the ortho protons 2, the meta protons 3, and the para 4. So you can expect 4 signals in the proton NMR, but in fact it gives only 2 signals, because this methyl group is not that much electron influencing to the ring, so that all the protons will have the same electron density around them, so that they will give only one signal. And but in carbon, you will have 5 signals because of this methyl 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And isopropyl benzene, again, you have 5 signals because of the CH3 and the CH, plus the 3 ring proton signals, and in fact 6 in the carbon. And similarly, nitrobenzene 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, the carbon, the ipso carbon will give you the 4th carbon signal. And aniline, again, you have 4 signals. Right. Alkenes, it's a symmetrical alkene. So you have one signal for this 2H and one signal for these 2 methyl group. You have only 2 signals, and in fact you will have one more carbon signal for the 1, 2, and 3 carbon signal in the carbon NMR. And when you have the unsymmetrical alkene, all the protons will be different. Here you can see that this proton is adjacent to a cis to a phenyl group and trans to a H. And whereas this proton is cis to a H and trans to a phenyl group. So all are different. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 proton signals, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbon signals. And disubstituted phenyl rings. When you have disubstituted phenyl rings, 1, 2 disubstituted phenyl rings, until you have same group, all the protons will be different. That is, you can say this, 1, 2, 3, 4 different signals in the proton NMR, in the aromatic ring, and the NH2 will be different. So you will have 5 signals in the proton, and all the 6 carbons will be different. In this case, you'll have 6 carbon signals. And when you have both same substituent, and you can draw a symmetry like that, so that the number of signals will reduce, you'll have 1, 2, and 3 signals in the proton, and 1, 2, 3 signals in the carbon. And 1, 3 disubstituted, again, if you don't have if you don't have similar substituent, all the carbons and the protons will be different. So you will get 1, 2, 3, 4 in the plus 5 because of this NH2, the proton, and all the 6 carbons of the aromatic ring will be different. You will get 6 signals. And when you have same similar substituent, then you can draw symmetry, and the number of signals will reduce. So 1, 2, uh, I think it should be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 carbon signals as well. 1,4 disubstituted phenyl rings. Again, it's a two different substituent. So both the ortho to the nitro will be same and ortho to the NH2 will be same. So you'll have three signals because of 1, 2, and 3 in the carbon proton NMR, I mean. And in carbon, you will have 1, 2, 3, and 4 signals in the carbon NMR. When you have a similar substituent, next, here's an interesting example. You can see a CH3, CH, CL, Cl, CH2, Cl. Now, you can predict the number of proton signals here 1, 2, and 3. And carbon again 1, 2, and 3. So I can expect three carbon signals and three proton signals for this component. But that's not the case. I'll explain you why. Now, when you have a chiral center in a compound, so you can see that this chlorine attached carbon is a chiral carbon now because it's attached to a CH3, Cl, and a CH. And here you have CH2. So it is attached to four different groups. So it's a chiral carbon now. Now, whenever you have a chiral center in the compound, the CH2 attached to the chiral carbon will be diastereotopic, or you can say those two CH2s will be, I mean, the H, the CH2 will be different, or it will be giving different signals. When you look at the Newman projection, you can see here you have the both CH2, HA and HP at any different orientations. I mean, in any orientation, you can see that this HB is attached to CH3 and Cl here. I mean, near to CH3 and Cl here. This HA is H and Cl. And HB has Cl and H, and HA has CH3 and H. And similarly, in all the three orientations, the chemical environment of these two CH are different. So generally, if chiral compound, the signals will be in, or you can say that if you have CH2, those CH2 will be diastereotopic, two different signals. So the symmetry will reduce the number of signals, whereas the chiral center will increase the number of signals if you have CH2 in that compound because of the diastereotopic nature. And this is another example. Again, you have the chiral center here. So the CH2 will be different. So the number of signals will be increased. So you can't expect one signal for this CH2. Now, this is another example here. Here you can see that you can expect there is no chiral center here, but the sulfur, the sulfoxide, I mean, it has a lone pair here. So you have four different groups. So this CH2 will be different. So you'll be having the number of, I mean, the number of signals in the proton will be increased. A little bit complex here. You can see, you can predict the number of chiral centers here. I can see here there is one chiral center here because it is CH2CH and here it is CH2CH. Even though you have two same adjacent, the next carbon is different. So this is a chiral center, and this OH attached carbon, this is another chiral center, and the isopropyl attached this carbon is also chiral center. You have three chiral centers, so you can expect all the CH2s to be different. So while predicting the number of signals of chiral in compounds with chiral carbon, you should be very careful. And you can see that there are total number of 13 signals in the will appear in the proton NMR of this compound, and the number of carbon will be 7. I mean 9 signals in the carbon NMR. So next, the DMF. So dimethyl formamide. It's a very basic example here. You have one proton here, aldehyde proton, and you have two methyl groups. So you can expect a CCN rotation here, and you can expect the two methyl groups to be same. So the number of carbon signals, I mean the proton signals, you can say that 2 and 2, but that is not the case because here you have the this CN, so that the two methyl groups will be different. So at room temperature, the NMR of dimethyl formamide will give you three proton signals and three carbon signals. But once you increase the temperature, like remember you in cyclohexane, when you reduce, you get two signals because of the axial and equatorial protons. But here, when you increase the temperature, the rotation barrier is crossed at 123 degrees, and you will have only two signals. So the two methyl groups will be same. This is very interesting. Then the substituted cycloalkanes, the methyl cyclopropane, you can see you have one methyl group here, one, the CH3, one, the CH2, and the two CH2s are same, but one H is above the plane and the other H is below the plane. So the two protons above the plane will give one signal, and two protons below the plane will be giving one signal. So totally 1, 2, 3, and 4 signals in the proton, and 1, 2, and the two CH2s are same, and you will get 3 signals in the carbon atom. Methyl cyclobutane, again the same case is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you will get 6. Remember these two proton, the CH2s, the protons above the plane are same and below the plane are same. And similarly here you have one above and one below. So totally 6, and you will have 1, 2, these two C are same and this is different. So totally 4 in the uh, carbon atom. In cyclopentane, again the same situation, 1, 2, these two are same. So above the plane 1 and below the plane 1. So two signals here, 1, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and these two are same. Again the above and below case appears here, and you will have 6 signals and 4 signals in the carbon. And cyclohexane, you will get 8 and 5, like as shown here. The methyl 1, the axial 2, both the equatorial, the next carbon 3, the axial 4, again the axial 5, the equatorial 6, and the equatorial 7 here, and axial 8 here. So totally 8. And heterocycles, when you say, for example, pyridine, you can take it as a benzene, and both the ortho 1, 2, and 3. So 3 proton signals and 3 carbon signals. And one more substitution, pyridine, 1 to nitrogen, and you can expect a symmetry like this, and you can expect 2 signals in the proton and 2 in the carbon. If you have 1, 3 pyrimidine, again you can draw the symmetry like that, and you will have 1, 2, and 3 signals in the proton and 3 in the carbon. 1, 4, you have CN axis of symmetry, and you will have only 1 signal. And the triazine, again you have CN axis of symmetry, and you will get only 1 signal. Pyrrole. So pyrrole, again you can take it like a phenyl ring. So NH will give 1, both the ortho and the next 2 protons, and similarly the carbon. So in proton you will get 3, 1, 2, and 3, and carbon you will get 2. Pyrazole. So the symmetry is collapsed here. So all the 3 protons are different. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in the proton and 3 in the carbon. And imidazole, 1, 3. Imidazole, you can expect, like 1 proton here, 2 here, 3 here, and 4. So 4 proton signals and 1, 2, 3 carbon signals. But that is not the case here, because due to tautomerization, this H will be very fastly moving to this nitrogen and the other nitrogen, so that these 2 carbons and protons will be same, will not be different. So you can, you will get only 3 signals because of this NH1, the CH1, and both the CH1. So 3 signals in the proton and the carbon. These 2 carbons will be same, and 1 and 2, only 2 carbons in the carbon NMR. Benzofuran, all the protons are different and all the carbons are different. You just count the number of protons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in fact, you have 2 carbons here, ipso carbons, so 6 and 8. And quinoline. Quinoline, again, you have all the protons different. So just count the number of protons and count the number of carbons. So that many number of signals you will get in the respected spectra. Naphthalene. So if you take naphthalene, there are 2 kinds of protons. One you can say alpha protons and beta protons. So you will get 2 signals in the proton NMR, and in fact the carbon NMR will be having 3 signals because of these 2 ipso carbons. Anthracene, you can see given in different colors. There are 1, 2, 3 different kinds of protons, and you will get 3 different kinds of 3 different signals in the proton NMR, and in carbon NMR you will get 1, 2, 3, and 4 different signals in the carbon NMR for anthracene. Phenanthrene, you can draw a symmetry like that, and you can see that the blue protons are same. This the red protons are same, and this one is different. So you will get three in the proton, and the carbon. These two carbons will be same, so you will get six carbons in the carbon atom. So I've seen. I mean, we have seen some examples. You know how to predict the number of signals. So the number one is you have to remember protons and carbons different chemical environment will give different signals. Number one, symmetry will reduce the number of signals, and the presence of chiral center will increase the number of signals if you have CH2, but not the carbon. Right. Next is the position of the signals. That is the chemical shift. So we know how to predict the number of signals, but we should know where it appears in the scale. Right. So that is given by chemical shift. Now, when you take, for example, ethanol, so you know that ethanol will give three different signals. You have a CH3, you have CH2, and OH. Right. So you know that they are in different chemical environment. So that means that the CH3 protons will have a precession frequency of its own. The CH2 will have its precession frequency of its own, and this OH will have a precession frequency of its own. Our aim, or the NMR's aim, is to record that frequency. So you have three different kinds of protons with three different pressure frequencies. So you need to know, you need to record that frequency. That is very much difficult because it's a megahertz scale. That is, you are placing it in a 300 megahertz, but the pressure frequency difference between these all these kinds of different nuclei are in hertz scale. So to measure hertz in a megahertz scale, it's very difficult. So that's where this chemical shift comes into picture. Now, you know that the frequency at which a given nucleus comes into resonance, it depends on magnitude of the external magnetic field, the B0, and the gyromantic ratio. So, which, I mean, both are constant. And the third factor is the chemical environment of the nucleus. That's what I told you. If you have ethanol, you have three different kinds of protons, which have different pressure frequencies. Right. Now, these electrons revolving around this nuclei will always oppose the external magnetic field. That is, when you place this ethanol in a 300 megahertz instrument, you can't expect all these three kinds of protons to exactly persist at the same frequency. No, it won't, because the electron density around this OH proton will be very much less when compared to this CH2, and again when compared to the CH3. So you can expect more electron density around the CH3 protons when compared to CH2. So this will feel, this will feel like, it is shielded when compared to this OH. This is de-shielded. So that is given by the sigma, which is called the field independent shielding factor. So when you take ethanol, you go to wherever, whatever instrument, whether it is 100 megahertz or it's a 500 or 600 megahertz, the shielding factor will be the same. So you can expect different crystal frequencies for these three different nuclei. So our aim is to exactly measure that. So that will be difficult because I will tell you the reason here. So the shielding and de-shielding factor, it appears, and when you take, for example, CH3 group of acetone, and when you record in a 120 hertz, 60 megahertz instrument, so it will resonate at 120 hertz. And when you record the same compound in a 200 in a 100 megahertz instrument, so the resonance frequency will be 200 hertz. So there will be an uncertainty. So when you record acetone, proton number of acetone in a 60 megahertz, it will have one value, and when you take the same acetone in a 100 megahertz instrument, it will have a different value. So that will be very confusing. So in order to overcome this, the concept called the chemical shift was introduced. So the internal standard, which is known as the TMS, the tetramethyl with the four methyl groups, all the four protons, the 12 protons are highly shielded. Silicon is electropositive. So this is considered as zero, and the signal is calculated from at what distance your signal appears from the TMS. So that is the chemical shift. And finally, dividing by the instrument field strength will give you the parts per million. the unit for the chemical shift. So the chemical shift is given by delta is equal to the frequency of the substrate, the difference between the frequency of the substrate and the TMS divided by the instrument field strength. So that is hertz by megahertz. So wherever you record the NMR for acetone, the chemical shift will be the same. So this is how the problem of exactly measuring the frequency, I mean the pressure frequency of the individual nuclei is overcome by introducing the concept called chemical shift. Now, when you take proton chemical shift, it is very narrow, so it can be from 0 to around 10 ppm and maximum up to 15 ppm. So all kinds of protons will be giving signal in this narrow region, and mostly 0 to 10 ppm, and TMS will be 0, kept as 0, and signals appearing near to TMS are highly shielded, or you can say the electron density around those nuclei are very high. So you need more energy, or it is, you can say, upfield, more energy to resonate these kinds of nuclei. And when you gradually come down, it is deshielded, or the electron density is very much low, and those kinds of protons are called the downfield signals. And similarly, in carbon NMR, unlike proton, the carbon NMR is very much wide. So it can go up to 0 to 250 ppm. It's very wide, and the same concept appears. So this is 0 is the TMS, and as gradually, if you go down, the downfield effect will take place. This is roughly the proton and carbon NMR chemical shift of certain kinds of nuclei. You can get it from any books or even in the internet resources. And gradually, I mean, you can see 0, the TMS, the alkanes will appear, and then the alkynes, then the alkenes in the aromatic ring, and the highly deshielded protons are the carboxylic acids and the aldehyde protons. And similarly, in carbon NMR, you can see 0, the TMS, if you say, and when you gradually go down, you'll have the alkanes, the CH2, CH, the nitrile carbon, and the highly deshielded proton. I mean, the carbons are the carbonyl carbons, and ketone is the highly deshielded when compared to esters, amides, etc. This is a rough picture. So, so we have seen to predict the number of signals, and we know somewhat, like, where the kinds of different kinds of protons will appear, the chemical shift. And now, third important concept is the spin-spin coupling in proton NMR. As I told you, we expected three proton signals for ethanol and two in carbon. The isopropyl benzene, the tetrabutyl group attached to the compound. We predicted certain number of signals, but you can't expect that one line for methyl, one line for the CH2, one for this OH. No. So this methyl proton will be influenced by the neighboring CH2 proton, and this methyl proton will tend to split depending on the number of neighboring spin or the neighboring protons, you can say. So that is given by the spin-spin coupling. So generally, it is, you can calculate the spin, the splitting by 2n(i plus 1), wherein 2 into number of neighboring protons n plus n into I. I is the I value, the spin value, plus 1. And where is the number of, I mean, n is the number of neighboring spins. So for spin half nuclei, you can just write n plus 1. So you need not write 2n(i plus 1) again and again. So for spin half nuclei, it is just n plus 1. So there are different kinds of splitting, the coupling, you can say geminal coupling, that is the first one. When the number of intervening bonds between the two coupled nuclei is 2, that is 1, 2. When these two protons couple, they are called geminal coupling. So this occurs only when you have diastereotopic kind of nature, when you, I mean, protons attached to the same carbon. So when you have chiral center attached to this carbon, CH2, and these two protons will be different, they will couple to each other. So geminal coupling will arise when you have diastereotopic kind of protons. Vicinal coupling, the number of bonds are 3. So here you can see the protons attached to neighboring carbons. So 1, 2, and 3. These two protons will tend to couple, and that type of coupling is known as the vicinal. And when you have bond distance more than 3, they are called long range coupling, or 1, 2, 3, 4. More than 3, it is called the
Sir,
long range.
sorry for intervening, sir. Sir, sorry for
Yes, yes.
intervening, sir.
Yeah,
You
please.
can take another 5 minutes, sir.
Yeah. I'll just finish
Sure,
with
sir.
this.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the magnitude of coupling is given by the J, that is the term J, and the J decreases with increasing number of intervening bonds. Right. And what is the theory behind the coupling is given by, as shown here. You can see that there is no coupling. There's no neighbor, so you'll have only one signal, which is called a singlet. And if you have one coupling partner, then that is this blue proton is in the ground state, and it can visualize the other proton, the red one, in the ground state as well as in the excited state. You have two different situations, so you'll get two lines, and that is called as a doublet. And the intensity will be 1:1. And if you have two different coupling, two coupled nuclei, then you have situation like this, and you have a triplet of 1:2:1, and you call, you say that signal as a triplet. And the three coupled nuclei, again, the situation is more complex. You have four line spectra with 1:3:1, you have a quartet. And then quintet, if you have four, uh, and then you have sextet, you have five, you have five, and you have septet, you have six coupling nuclei. This is how the splitting occurs. Now, maybe I will just skip this, and we will try to just predict the splitting of one particular compound, the ethanol. You can see here the CH3, it has two neighboring protons. So this CH3 is coupled to 2. So n plus 1, 2 plus 1, this CH3 will be a triplet, which you can write as a T. And this CH2, it has three different, nucleus here. So it will be a quadrat. And this OH always tend to, it will not couple because it will be exchanging with the other molecule very fastly, is OH. So it will give a broad cylinder. And the CH3 again, we have a CH2 here, so this will be a triplet, and this CH2 will be a sextet because you have CH2, CH3, 5 plus 1 sextet, and then you have a triplet because of this CH2. So I think I can just stop here and directly go to the paracetamol, where we try to maybe I will finish it off with this. So the paracetamol. Now, with these knowledge, we can just try to assign the structure. The chemical values. If you take IR, you can see that uh, the sharp peak at around 3326 is because of this OH, and the broad peak here at 3165 is because of this NH, and here a sharp absorption at 1667 is because of the amide carbonyl. And if you take the proton NMR, you can say that A, B, C, D, and E. There are five different kinds of protons here. And to assign, you can say that the singlet, it has no neighboring protons. So singlet at 2.11 is because of the CS3, and this doublet at 6.69 is because of this D. These two protons will couple with the neighboring one here, CH here, so it will be a doublet. And this C, again it couples with the D proton here, so it has a doublet. With you can see the J value will be mutually same. So it says that these two are mutually coupling partners. And the E here, a small singlet here, is because of this OH, and the last at around 9.66 here is because of the NH. And if you take the carbon, again you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kinds of carbon, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines here. So it matches. So 23.7 is because of the CH3, and the B, it is highly deschelated carbonyl, the amide carbonyl here 167.7, and similarly the other signals. And again, you can see I've done all the assignment of the proton and carbon signals of hydroxychloroquine. So it has 16 proton signals and 17 carbon signals here as shown. So I think I can finish it off now. I thought of showing you a lot of examples, but in view of this time constraint, I can stop here, and I should thank all the people responsible for this event. I thank DST IRHPA and DST FIST and all the internet resources for some pictures. And be safe, be a responsible citizen, and you know what to do in this pandemic situation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your wonderful words and wonderful seminar lecture, sir. So there are just
Thank
two questions and many more, sir. I'll just ask two questions as the time is being constricted on.
Yes.
First question is, apart from analytical
Yeah.
chemistry, why principle of NMR spectroscopy is used in the medicinal industry?
Yeah, the medicine industry, in the sense, you make new compounds, right? So before going for in vitro analysis or the in vivo analysis, you need to know the structure of the compound. That is one important thing. Um, structure activity relationship is very much important. So for that, you need to completely characterize the compound. You need to know what exactly the structure is before going to the medicinal. Studying the medicinal properties of the compound. So that's very important. So just like that, you can't isolate some extract from the natural resources, and you can't just go and test for the activity. So first, you need to know what, because it may have mixture of compounds, and only one compound may be active to that disease. So you need to know what exactly is the structure of that compound. So for that, NMR is very much important.
I hope you have answered the second question also, sir, because the question is, what are the benefits of having an NMR spectrometer? So I hope you have answered that too, sir.
No, that is thing, and I mean there are a lot of disadvantages also, because for recently we have issued the purchase order for 400 megahertz, which costs around 2.1 crores. So the cost is a little bit more, but you have a lot of advantages also. So the maintenance also is very difficult, but when you have it, then it's like you are in a heaven.
Sure, sir, sure, sure. So, really a big thank you to Dr. R. Kumar for his efforts towards this presentation, for giving an excellent coverage on the topic. As you promised in the beginning of your lecture, by now all the participants would clearly know how to check with the grown crystals for the functional groups, sir. And as you pointed that you are the lowest of all frequencies, which have always a long range and are useful in penetrating into water and rocks for communication with submarines inside mines and caves, sir. And I'm sure you
Yes.
have penetrated deep inside the crystals, sir. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. Thank
I
you so much.
hope it was
And
helpful for many.
true, true. It's really benefited many, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I, Dr.R. Vishnu, on behalf of the Department of Physics, the Madura College, and the entire team, special guests, and all participants, let me call it a fraternity of crystallographers here together. And on my own behalf, I extend my hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. I may like to express my sincere thanks to Madura College Board for giving an excellent support in stepping ahead with our new ideas. I am also very grateful to the principal, Dr. J. Suresh, for encouraging ideas at all levels of this webinar. I also extend my thanks to the head of the department, Dr. R. Saravanan, and the faculty members of the department for their enormous support in the organization of this event. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. And one such person is my co convenor, Professor S.Sivaramakrishnan, who has been constantly supporting us working for this webinar. Well, ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires planning a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed up by a team of very motivated and dedicated students who has been tirelessly working for this webinar. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and their willingness to take involvement on the completion of the task beyond their comfort zones. Finally, I would like to thank the overwhelming response of the participants. Overwhelming is not just in words, it's about 1,500 in number too. I hope you had a happy and a fruitful online learning experience. This response has given us more responsibilities and perfections from us in the forthcoming webinars. I am glad for this vote of thanks because I wouldn't give this thanks if I wasn't encouraged to do so by the tradition of our Madura College. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you.